Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Seal of Approval. Joining us this week, and he's actually here this week, is Scrump.
Yeah, sorry about last week, folks. I had some technical problems. My internet decided it wasn't going to work when it was stream time, but I'm here today.
Actually turned up for the Seals. Good. Also joining us this evening, we have first appearance on Seal of Approval for Uzalu. How are you?
Hello there. I know absolutely nothing about you, Rose, but given that you're friends with Scrump, the one thing I can assess is that you're a trap.
Thanks.
That's just a guess. I might be wrong.
Well, a more advanced trap, let's just say.
Yes, they've evolved.
I was gonna say, if she's a trap, then what does that make me?
A reverse.
A reverse trap. We know that.
Oh god, I was playing Among Us. I was surrounded by imposters then. Now I realise I'm still surrounded by imposters.
Oh dear.
Dude, this is going to be a spicy one. Of course, joining us once again, it's Mars. How are you, Mars?
Hey, good. Thanks for the invite. Glad to be back.
So before we bring in the usual suspects, as it were, some of you might remember last week when I started the show, I talked about a weird argument that I had with the editor of Pink News. So just to kind of refresh people, if you didn't watch my last week's stream, last week I did a video on how the LGBT media has a hell of a lot of bias within it. It's incredibly untrustworthy. And one of the editors of Pink News watched it, and he wasn't very happy, and he accused me of, misrepresenting them. And we ended up having an argument about what is whether or not they are non-partisan. And of course, Pink News said that they have no bias, they're completely non-partisan, except for when it comes to Trump. And so they have an open bias against Donald Trump. I had to explain to them that is
it's being partisan,
not what being non-partisan is, but the guy is a fucking moron. He just honestly, he couldn't see it. I tried to explain to him very slowly at several points. If you hold a specific bias against someone when you're doing the reporting, especially the leader of the free world, you cannot call yourself non-partisan. But right, because he has a severe case of TDS, he wouldn't understand it.
Let me read people the actual dictionary definition of non-partisan. Not biased or partisan, especially towards any particular political group or figure.
Yep. and
very specifically political as well. It's like, we're non-partisan, but we're not a big fan of Marmite. But what? That's fine. But saying we're non-partisan, but also we don't like this politician/political ideology. It's like bit of a big there. Really activates the Romans.
Big But jumping up to this week, so I don't know whether anyone might have seen this on Twitter over the weekend. The LGBT Tories just did this incredibly fucking embarrassing lip sync thing. It was this again. I'm in no way actually defending the LGBT conservatives of this country, because they are a complete joke. There is nothing conservative about them. They're basically just New Labour but blue. That is it.
Yes. Fresh from stomping on our civil liberties, the Conservative Party is diving headlong into identity politics. Hooray!
Yeah. And so,
are we filing this cringe in amongst the NHS dancing on TikTok while they were getting a bunch of praise for being overstaffed and overworked, or understaffed and overworked?
That is probably one of the things that influenced them from doing this in the first place.
Oh
God!
Following the tremendous success of the NHS TikTok dancing while they were supposed to be saving people's lives.
Well, they are incredibly busy, especially now when I'm finding it very difficult to even register with a GP because, there's 2 cases of COVID. So, you know,
the
you got
Conservatives, the cool party, can dance without losing the election. Just like that time Theresa May did it, and it totally didn't look cringe.
Let's remember, this is a Conservative party with a effective supermajority. Like they can put through whatever the fuck they want. Like Boris Johnson.
Just watch them fuck it up, though, Scrum. Just watch them fuck it up.
I'm gonna say.
Oh, well, they have been. They have been since they got into power. What have they actually done that is in any way conservative?
I don't mean like in terms of what's right. Obviously, they're fucking that up. I mean in terms of like tactically. They've got it's Boris's country right now. Which I'm warning against this. The moment he was voted in, you know, he was a decent option of the ones available, but we've given the country to him, and he is not by any means perfect, and he's made a lot of mistakes, and so yeah, they're definitely fucking up in that way. But I mean tactically, watch them become complacent now, and then lose it all in the next election.
Oh, they will. Like I don't even think that Boris is going to be standing for election come the next election. He'll have dropped out as leader long before then. Like there is not a chance that he's going to be remaining. Anyway,
we can probably talk about this in one of our other sections because
it actually does
one of the seals of news.
Yes,
bring us the cringe.
Yes. So it was like you had like a Tory councillor dressed as like Conchita Wurst, like on a beach, and these are conservatives. Like these are fucking conservatives. Like they did a song, like two of them did like a lip sync battle to Taylor Swift. And so the non-partisan Pink News that takes absolutely no bias against any kind of political organization. This is the way in which they're story. The LGBT plus conservatives mark their party's annual conference with a rallying call for gender recognition reform, conversion therapy ban, LGBT plus asylum protections. Well, not quite. While Tory Equalities Minister Liz Truss spent the weekend hobnobbing with a homophobic US conservative think tank, the group for LGBT plus party members was busy holding a lip sync battle. So, like, I agreed that the lip sync battle was cringe. Like, I don't think that is in debate with anyone. But how can you call yourself a non-partisan news organization and open up a story about a political party like that? Like, straight away, they're putting in, this is what they should have been talking about, our agenda. Because like Pink News supports things like LGBT asylum protections, or all of these things that sound really nice and fluffy until you actually look into the meat of it and what they're calling for. And so they start off this article by framing it in terms of they're not pushing our agenda, aren't they stupid? And then whenever they mention any MP or person, Carrie Symonds, fiance to tank-topped bum boy opponent and Prime Minister Boris Johnson, basically they're saying there that Boris is against gays, which his record shows that he isn't. Like, as much as I think that Boris is a complete letdown, he isn't against the gays. They then, more shit slinging at various MPs, and then they end it with just criticism from Twitter. And so I pointed this out to the. Let me bring up the tweet. So like I pointed this out to the editor Ryan John Butcher. So I kind of fancied a bit of a round two.
Fancied a butcher, did you?
John Butcher told me Pink News isn't a partisan website. Look at the way they reported on LGBT Con's lip sync event from last week, even ignoring the reason why they did it in the first place. Once again, Pink News is trash. And he's like, I'm flabbergasted. I need to explain this, but being non-partisan doesn't mean you can't ever be critical. Like, it wasn't about you being critical. He just putting an agenda in his article. And if you don't think there was anything to be critical of, you clearly haven't watched it. Like, well, it was just a cringy lip sync. Like, your article should always just be, this is just embarrassing for everyone.
Right.
The problem seems to be that, like, being non-partisan, being non-biased is very difficult. Most people can't do it because it requires constant vigilance of your own thoughts. Most people, even if they think they're being non-biased, they're actually just not deliberately putting spin on things and just talking naturally. But all they've read, all they've seen, all they believe is from one side. And so it naturally comes out with a bias. And, these guys, Pink Magazine, it seems like they are LGBT focused anyway. So probably they will talk about those issues more. So that's not even necessarily a bias, just a focus. But it sounds very much like they are biased, and he doesn't realize it because he's not doing it deliberately. And he shouldn't be running a media outlet. He's not eligible.
No. And so I pointed this out. Your article starts by critiquing them for not pushing the agendas you want them to. It ends with Twitter quotes which are only critical of the event. You either don't understand what non-partisan means or you're lying. And then he says, fortunately, I am under no obligation to answer to you in any way whatsoever. Now, if you excuse me, I have work to do.
That just sounds, that's such a,
runs away.
Can I
Brave butcher runs away. Sorry.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I'm glad that you posted this conversation because I couldn't even read it because he has me blocked.
Does he?
Oh, he does.
Like this is the amazing.
I don't even know why.
I saw this in his on his Twitter feed earlier. He moaned about being blocked by someone. Where is it? Here we go. He's been blocked by MP that Pink News was constantly attacking, and then he's whining about he's just moaning about being blocked.
Yeah.
And once again, he pats himself on the back for being the editor of the largest LGBTQIA+++ site in the Western world.
Which is complete trash anyway.
Which is complete trash, which everyone thinks is an absolute embarrassment. So it's not something to brag.
I do find it pretty funny when someone gives themselves an accolade or someone else an accolade where the accolades qualifiers are so long that the longer it is, it makes it less and less and less impressive, the more qualifiers you have to put on. And I love how their qualifiers is literally just a bunch of letters. It's just a long string of letters, and those letters mean words as well. If you were to spell that out, it would be one of the longest qualified accolades ever given.
It's like
thus one of the least impressive.
It's like
this guy has nothing else in his life, does he?
No, he really doesn't. We seem to be having a little bit of a rivalry at the moment. He normally blocks people on site. He had a massive fight with Dank a couple of months ago, calling Dank a Nazi, and Dank was disagreeing with him, and he basically blocked everyone who was critical of him at that time, including me. And so he actually unblocked me just to start a sparring match with me. Which I find quite funny. Last week, he challenged me.
Head approach.
Yeah, basically. Socialist on head.
Shives on head.
Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to see the posts that Sean had made during the presidential debate, you can watch my stream on that because I saw them all on there and responded to several of them. Then she deleted the whole lot for some fucking reason. There is a full archive available on my channel of her tremendous Twitter cringe.
Well shilled there. I gotta say though, the Pink News guy, it's like he's declared himself the tallest man aged 25 to 26 at the midget convention. That is the ribbon he's given himself.
Yeah, it's like I've made no secret. I actually used to write for one of these LGBT sites years ago. I did it as a part-time job, and I know how kind of desperate for news that a lot of these outlets are, because there isn't really all that much going on to really properly sustain a whole website, especially one that likes to think it's the biggest in the world. Video game news, there's loads. If you want to talk about trade or there's so much, so many different subjects that generate news after news after news. LGBT stuff really doesn't. I can cover these kinds of things on my YouTube channel because I am one person.
Even then, you've branched out and you struggle to fill a lot of the stuff with the trans issue stuff. You've more pivoted towards general news because of that. Because specific stuff, unless you're really stretching it, you have to do that. You have to branch out.
You do, but they can't. And I know how desperate they can get to actually find stories. They will report on stuff which has literally nothing relevant to anyone. They'll do a story on a viral video that has 2,000 views. I remember when I was working for this website that will go unnamed, and I was told by the editors to write a story on, look at this amazing video that these two young women have done about anti-gay bullying, and it's going viral. And I was like, it has 2,500 views and it's been out for a month. Yeah. Yes, but this is, it's going viral, isn't it? We could help them go viral. And I'm like, it's shit. It's really shit. It's just two absolute morons just hamming it up in front of the camera. and like it was not a news story at all. But that's how desperate these outlets really are. But like,
it's quite pathetic.
Like honestly, this guy challenged me to a debate the other week, but now I actually do want to do it. He became a bit of a debate me bro. He became a bit of a debate.
Such a meme.
Oh, I had a debate Scrump. I had a debate me bro in the chat last week.
The thing is, I've had people like that, and then I've tried to set up debates with them, and they always drop out.
I just find a lot of them like incredibly dishonest.
Well, of course they are.
Really?
Really? The random people on the internet can be dishonest. Quick question for you though, Mars. Sorry. Do you have like an equivalent of like Pink News in the US? Is there like a specific like gay news magazine, or does that just not exist?
The entire mainstream media.
I gotta say, apart from that,
I don't know.
No, there's two.
I think they're
Queerty, which is the one that ran the hit piece on that Breakback Patriot guy. Like they ran this whole article telling their readers not to have sex with this one man.
Oh yeah. But they're all the same. I mean, they all have an agenda, so it's hard to keep, like, you know what I mean? They're always just bashing the same people, the same views.
Oh, that says Queerty. I thought that was like QWERTY magazine. I thought they were being smart.
No, they're just really, really lame. Like all of them are really, really. All of them are crap. All of them are crap. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of point this out. I actually probably would do a stream where I just openly challenge Pink News now, because I genuinely think that they're trash and need to be taken down.
You need to got a wrestling promo, you know?
Yeah,
challenge into a cage match.
Debate me, bro. Like,
but if you want to know what kind of person he's likely to be, just ask yourself, what kind of person rises to the top of a online news organization that deals with social justice related issues? Oh, right, the worst scum on the earth. Okay, there you go. Fantastic.
The only thing I'll caveat I would add is like he said that we'd have to donate any money to a trans charity. Like, fuck off, donating it to SEALs.
Let me say, would it be a trans charity of his choice? Because all of them are pretty terrible.
Not all of them are terrible. Every single one of them is terrible.
Yeah,
like, I refuse to give any money to
Rose, I have a brilliant idea. Start a trans charity, then you get the moral win as well.
Good. Start a trans seal charity. Speaking of which, we should probably bring on
a trans seal, everyone.
Yes, the trans seal.
And speaking of seals, it's time for our good friends, the Seals of News.
Aha! It's the autumn seals.
It's the autumnal seals of news. Like, look at them. Look, there's this one with a pumpkin spice latte, and another one with an apple and an umbrella, and they're wearing hats.
Some of them are. This was a really lazy job. Club? No.
Have you named this show Seal of Approval just to get the meme, just to get the pun, rather?
Yes.
No, kind of. Yeah,
is there some association between you and Seals? I mean, I have noticed that Seal is a band that wrote a song with the word rose in it.
Well, Seal's the man.
That's what
so that's a more substantive connection that I can see between the two concepts. So I'm guessing that it's a Seal tribute stream.
The concept, the actual concept runs incredibly deep, like deeper than I even realized. I mean, on the surface level, it's just I like seals, but then like you have Kiss from a Rose and.
It's meme magic.
Yeah. They're memes, and like look at them. Look at the way they're wearing them little hats.
Yes, $10,000 in MS Paint. Sorry, go on, Mars.
So the Seals every week, the Seals of News bring us some news, and this week they've brought us 4 different stories. They've brought us Drumpf, they've brought State of the Nation, they brought Barbie.
Oh no,
and Netflix. So, Uzalu, would you like to pick a seal?
Oh, well, I mean, these are all worthy subjects, but I like a bit of Schadenfreude. So I want to see Netflix get rammed. I happen to know what this story is. I haven't covered it yet, but I would have covered it if I was streaming today. But instead I'm covering it here.
So
I think the US government is doing what it should have done at the earliest possible opportunity.
Yes. So Netflix faces Texas legal battle over the film's lewd dancing. Now, like this, like just seeing some of the reactions to like the kind of neckbeards that were openly, championing Cuties as this, like, it's this amazing film that everyone just has to check out. Like it's designed to make you like aroused, like that one guy said. I can't even remember what his name was. But like they a lot of them are actually kind of getting angry that this has gone to court. I mean, I think there was like a whole jury basically agreed.
Not the pedophiles, not the Nancy boys.
What I think is the best about this is their reason that they gave for doing it. It's what I would describe as we wanted to exploit children to show that it's wrong. Yes. Because it's wrong. We're doing it because it's wrong.
We need to kick these puppies to show you not to kick puppies.
We couldn't
kick puppies, guys.
We couldn't just imply it. We couldn't just write about it. We actually had to do it to show that it's wrong.
Yeah. Like I'll admit, I haven't watched the film because I've seen enough in terms of the clips online. Like I don't want to give Netflix the views now that I've actually seen. Like they have that dance scene at the end. Like that, I think that's the one that everyone's probably seen now on Twitter.
I haven't seen any of it, and I never will. But everyone who I know who's watched it says, "Yeah, it's sick."
Yeah. Uzalu, how do you know if it's child porn if you don't watch the child porn?
Funnily enough, I actually think it's wrong to watch child porn.
Yeah, conservatives BTFO. Take that, Nazis.
Well, I don't quite get. What I don't get about some of the criticism that the film has got is that you need to. Damn it! I had a train of thought then, and it's literally just gone.
It's fine. You were saying something there, Mars. So you seem to not have a word in edge switch at the moment.
Wait, sorry, did you say Mars?
Yes, I did say Mars.
Sorry, I spaced out. No, I was because I've been thinking
Mars,
about
space.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I don't think I'm gonna bother watching this because, like you said, I mean the clips are already pretty horrific. But I don't know if anybody ever remembers this movie because I was thinking about how film and what's controversial today has shifted so much. Like when I was a teenager, I had to find a way to be sneaky and watch this movie by Larry Clark called Kids, which was very controversial, and it was about underage teens having sex, and specifically one character in that movie who has AIDS, I believe, was just unknowingly passing it around. And that movie was pretty bad. But again, the differences between why that was controversial to this is like this to me is child porn. And that at least we had, adult actors playing, teenagers, I think. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird how in film, just our culture has shifted. And I feel like, I don't know, we've really desensitized ourselves, maybe.
Yeah, well, when you see a lot of the older films where they deal with subjects like this, a lot of the time, obviously not every time because there's some very notable exceptions, but there are quite a lot of times when it will be over 18s who are portraying these characters. Like I think of Kidulthood, for example. Like I'm sure that everyone who is involved in that, like even though they're portrayed as being high schoolers, I'm sure like everyone in that is a lot older than they actually are.
Right. Well, Lolita, famously.
Lolita, yes.
You can do that. You can do it without having actual kids involved.
Oh, right. Yeah. Lolita was made into a film too. That's right. And she was probably in her 20s, I believe, the actress.
Yeah. Lolita's also been a play, but Lolita is very kind of different conceptually to what Cuties is. Like one of the things that I've heard from its supporters is, or the way in which they kind of cover their own vices is like, it's a film that really condemns the sexualized nature of our society. Okay. But I've read a lot of reviews and reports from people who have watched the film, and my understanding of it is nobody is really pushing like any kind of sexualized identity on these children. They're finding all of this stuff themselves, and Yeah, and there aren't any adults in the film who are, kind of saying, "Oh, yeah, you should totally wear these really revealing clothes and twerk on stage to hundreds of people." From my understanding, it's the girls who decide to come out with that themselves. And so I think it's very difficult to have a conversation about we are sexualizing our children when nobody in the film is actually sexualizing their children, except for the people actually making the film.
Yeah, but if this movie is actually, changing or whatever, making some epic point. The other thing too is like, I don't really see any of these people that are backing this film talk about how the internet has a massive influence on these teens and how they behave and how they have full access to like porn, but we're not talking about that. So they just want to back up this movie, which to me is super creepy.
Okay. But you can make those arguments without making them twerk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like everything about the film is made redundant because of that scene. And the thing is, I know that that's not the only gross scene in the film. I've heard lots of really dodgy stuff goes on, but there's that one scene where if they're really trying to make a point of it's wrong to sexualize children, then don't sexualize children whilst trying to make that point. Like I think Sophia watched it and kind of did a bit of a review on it, and like she made this observation that the ending would have been a lot more like if they want to make the argument that it's wrong for the children to be sexualized, it would have been a lot more effective for them to have focused on the audience themselves and like the audience's shocked reactions as opposed to the crotches of children.
Yeah.
And like that makes a lot of sense in like a narrative point. It's a lot more effective.
What I want to know is how many takes they had to go through just to get the shot exactly right. And that's how many bullets they're getting in the back of the head. So there's actually another shoe to drop on this story. I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but Netflix is fucking defending this.
Really?
They're saying Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children. This charges without merit and we stand by the film. How easy would it be for a pedophile that's just made softcore pornography to say, oh no, it's against child pornography?
Yeah.
Seconds it takes to make that defense.
Yeah, it's just it feels like a real big brained take on it. It's like, oh no, you wouldn't quite understand why this puppy kicking film is wrong. It's above you, but us intellectuals, we know. We know.
You get it, and you can get it 100% from a jail cell.
What I want to know is how sick do these kids' parents have to be to agree to put them in this movie? Like,
well, there were 600 kids who auditioned for this.
I bet most of them are like, "Thank God we didn't get that role."
God damn it! Like, that's 600 sets of parents, or
I think you mean 600 counts of child sexual exploitation.
Yes. As you had these people watching the children's work as part of their job. Like, this reminds me of things like, like child drag shows and stuff, where you had that weird tweet again from Pink News last year being, just a reminder, Republicans want to ban child drag shows. And I'm like,
oh no, we only have two choices. Either we have to be pedophiles or on the right somewhere. What a terrible world we live in, where that's the choice.
I love all the responses, like saying, being anti-Cuties is a right-wing position. I was like, well, yes, I'm right-wing then.
That was part of the insanity of all this. It really seemed to mainstream this opinion, like, being anti-pedophilia is a right-wing.
Well, that takes head above water every so often is the problem.
Well, especially when you see like the various leftists who ends up, saying that they might partake in child porn or believe it to be it should be legalized because they think it's exactly the same as buying an iPhone.
One of the producers of this film actually. I can't remember his name. He's I don't know. He's got like dual French Israeli nationality, whatever you want to make of that. But what is his?
Plenty is what I'll make of that.
I'm trying to remember what his name is, but he described himself as a civil liberties advocate in that he's against like age of consent laws.
Oh Jesus Christ!
So that really kind of sinks their point from the start because the people involved in producing this film are basically nonce activists. So it doesn't really make it hold water. And this was shown at the thing that baffles me, and I know you've mentioned it before as well, Uzalu, but this was shown at festivals.
Yeah.
Like festival audiences applauded at this shit. And I've tried to avoid it, but I've seen clips go by on like my Twitter timeline. There's been some stuff posted to my Discord occasionally, which has actually got yeeted. Because I don't want that shit. Sorry? No. The stuff on the Cuties clips that people put on my Discord got yeeted.
Good.
You know, it's like same point. It's like, hey guys, look how bad this kiddie porn is. Post kiddie porn. The little snippets I've seen going past, the scene you're talking about is beyond gratuitous. If it was focusing on an adult female actress, they would rage about the fact that this was a sexualizing misogynist film.
Yeah.
Winner of 37 Pedophile Awards at Sundance Festival.
Yeah, basically. It's not helping the whole.
I'm sure that you probably covered the news about one of the guys that used to run Sundance, or did recently run it. One of the judges done on pedophile charges.
Big old nonsense.
Oh, what a surprise! I mean, there was even someone who was connected with Netflix like a few weeks back was done on pedophile charges as well. Like,
I'm not sure if that was legit. There was a parody article that the leader of Netflix had got.
No. This was an actor.
Yeah, that what's his name? That black guy. Yeah, the black guy.
I saw that. You're right.
And I think there was even something else the other day. Like,
wouldn't be surprising. I mean, frankly, we're scratching the surface of the pedophile networks that run part of the world.
It's not good.
Apologies. I just need to quickly respond to something.
Okay. Well, I don't know. What's your whole opinion on this from a US perspective there, Mars? Do you think they'll secure a conviction? Because the burying the lead here on the BBC, though, this isn't some civil suit. This is they have been indicted by a grand jury on criminal charges.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful that they face some consequences beyond, because I feel like just having them take down the movie isn't enough. You know what I mean? Like but I have no idea how much power they could have over a movie that
someone in the sorry, go on.
No, you're good.
Someone in the chain of people who were in charge of this being made did it for the child porn. At least 100%. One person.
Yeah.
And if not, there were probably dozens of people involved in it who were there for that reason. Though that's not to say everyone was, but even the people that weren't there, surely they must have churned through a lot of stuff who couldn't cope with the fact that they were making a movie out of child porn.
Yeah. So, sorry, because I actually didn't really look into this article you have pulled up here. So this is coming from Texas directly.
Yes,
that's right.
Is that where it was filmed?
So
no,
it was filmed in France. It's a French film.
Netflix operates in the US.
Yeah, but why? I'm just wondering why. Well, Texas is.
Well, they operate nationwide.
I'm just wondering why specifically Texas is the one jumping into this.
Right,
it's a federation of states, so they can all like jump in whenever they feel like it, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so this is what the BBC says. On Tuesday, Tyler County District Attorney said the county had decided to indict Netflix for the promotion of the film in his county. According to the court filing, Netflix knowingly promoted work that depicts the lewd exhibition of the genitals or pubic area of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age at the time the visual material was created, which appeals to the prurient interest in sex.
So they're basically saying it was like a wink and a nod towards being underage porn, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of places do have those kind of laws to try and with like the pedophiles having ho ho ho, they're still wearing clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite common.
So that's fine. Also, apparently, this guy's dad is a congressman who co-signed a letter saying that Cuties meets the U.S. legal definition of child pornography.
The thing is, though,
go on, Scott. You go first.
I was going to say this could open them up to charges in other counties, though, because
I would imagine so.
It's not just against kind of Texas state law. It's I don't know how it would work with double jeopardy laws. But in the US, if they promoted this in every single county in the US, there could be an argument made that basically everybody could charge them for slightly different charges because they have slightly different laws on the books. Like Netflix could end up in a lot of trouble because of this.
I mean,
I wouldn't doubt it if the federal government either took up the charge from Texas or just straight up used it as if it was federal, because this it's a serious charge.
Yeah.
There is a potential problem though, because the bit just after in the indictment, just after the bit that you read the quote from the BBC, the bit just after that is, and has no serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. That is what they will be arguing their defense on. And speaking of which, I want to mention it again. I find it amazing that Netflix is defending this, because before this happened, Netflix could have been argued as oblivious. Like, okay, the guys who were promoting it didn't watch it. They were told by the director that it was an artistic thing and that there wasn't really any sexual exploitation. It was just thematic. And then they didn't watch it and they promoted it because it was a popular film. And then, oops, it turns out it's child porn. Okay, Netflix drops it. No, they're defending it. So at this point, they are willfully taking part in spreading child porn. And it seems like at that point, what do they gain out of defending it? Like, what do they gain out of being the company that defended something which almost everyone recognizes is probably, if not definitely, child porn?
Yeah.
It just looks, frankly, Netflix sus. Yeah.
And put all this into perspective. Netflix was very quick to drop Little Britain and The Mighty Boosh.
Exactly.
They dropped them. They couldn't have them. They couldn't have the League of Gentlemen on their service, but they will vigorously defend Cuties.
That's so sick. That says a lot about your company. I have a question actually, because you said this movie was originally made in France.
That's right.
What was the response there? Because I don't understand why it would be made in that country, and then they would also do like an American version here if it was bad.
Well, I'm not actually sure what the general reaction in France was. I think it was always more of a kind of art house, small budget film anyway. So I don't think it was the kind of thing that was ever kind of promoted in the mainstream. But the whole reason why Cuties became a controversy in the first place is because of that poster. Had they just used the French poster, people probably wouldn't have paid attention to it. But because they used that really disturbing poster, people kind of caught on, and then they wanted to watch the film to see, is it actually like in the poster? And then it turns out, yes, the ending, that poster is practically just from the ending. And it's a really, really disturbing poster. And I just cannot believe that they even thought to run with it in the first place.
I will make a comment, say that the French have actually been very, very bad about combating pedophilia in the past. They used to have multiple public figures who used to make jokes about having sex with 14 to 16-year-olds. It used to be almost politely acceptable to talk about. They used to see themselves as more enlightened and liberal than places like America. But that's fortunately started to change now. But no, there is actually quite an ingrained culture, especially with older people in France, that pedophilia for people who are that age is not a problem. And it's genuinely quite, I know it's quite a British thing to harp on the French, but it's an attitude the Dutch took as well for a long time. That the sexualization.
There is no need to apologize for fucking over the French at every opportunity.
Well, they have
You've been very civilized so far, Scrump, but there's really no need. They're French.
I know. But there are parts of Europe that have a very disturbing culture still of minimizing or accepting pedophilia. Do you remember
the parts that aren't Anglosphere?
Yeah, the parts that aren't Anglosphere and the parts that aren't base Slavs.
That'll be it then.
Well, you remember the defense of Roman Polanski back in the 1960s, 70s, saying, "Oh, he's European. They have different standards over there." Someone who drugged and raped a 13-year-old and who still gets standing ovations from Hollywood. I mean, to be fair, I take a more cynical approach. I'm more surprised that something like Cuties didn't happen earlier. I'm honestly surprised it's taken this long, because they've been promoting that agenda and literally applauding pedophiles for decades. They see no problem with that, and they've never seen a problem with that. And I guess it's their bubble, it's their obliviousness. Maybe they genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with Cuties, but either they are standing up for deliberately, or they're just so within their own echo chamber they think there's nothing wrong with it. But this is a symptom. This is not a disease. This is a symptom of the rot that's been going on for so long.
It's also it's just so ironic that they're so focused on this movie's intent, but again, like other shows that they've pulled, they don't look at the the context and intent that they had with like comedy. It's weird. Like we're living in a weird world.
So does anyone have anything else that they want to add on about Cuties before we move on to another seal?
Yeah. Cuties, as in the orange that you can eat at the store, is still valid.
What?
We don't have that over here.
Okay, well, just for
wait, hold on a second. The orange that you can eat at the store.
Yeah, they have like little mini, oranges, and they're usually in a bag at the grocery store.
Like Satsuma?
Yeah, like mini peelers, like little tangerines.
Breaking news: Netflix is branching out into oranges, just so that they can promote Cuties again.
It was probably an irrelevant point, but
it's just kind of weird.
Sorry.
The oranges you can eat at the store.
Yeah, they're Cuties. That's what they're branded as.
Which oranges can't you eat at a store?
Well,
Trump, for example.
This is why I'm confused.
All right.
Right. So got a few super chats coming in. First of all, Architect of Fate with the $5. Nonce Flicks should be sentenced to be pumped by Dank and Scrump.
What?
Do you and Dank want to double team Nonce Flicks?
No. I'd replace pumped with strafed personally, but
bring in old Baz.
The brilliant suggestion that we give them a 50 cal magazine for every time that they had a child in the interview.
And the next is Frederick. I believe I don't know whether I pronounced that right. With 20 SEK. So I think. So he accidentally put his text in the wrong bit. He says Roman Polanski shows us the French love their pedos.
Yes.
So thank you for the super chats. Keep them coming. And here is the Seals of News once again.
Looking very autumnal.
Look at them.
So makes me wish I had better Photoshop. I'm gonna have to go and fix it after the show now.
We'll do. Yeah, we'll have new seal. Well, at the moment they're just kind of enjoying their pumpkin spice latte in their hats, but they'll be back next week with a whole new getup. So Mars, do you want to pick a seal?
Sure. Even though this creeps me out, I'll go ahead and pick Barbie.
Oh God!
Like a horror movie for real. I hate clowns, and that literally they look like a clown.
So who's Barbie? Who is Barbie, boss?
Who's Barbie?
Explain Barbie to us. Yes.
Barbie is Barbie actually would probably fit the what J.K. Rowling wrote about in a way, right?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. So
too far.
I wanted to kind of add a bit on this Joker looker motherfucker in this video, just because there are a few little corrections that I need to make from the video that I did yesterday, but there have also been a few other things that happened that I didn't cover. So for those of you who might.
Yeah, shall we just quickly go? Oh, sorry, you are doing. I'm redundant. Yeah. I'm redundant.
So just to quickly go over who this is, Barbie Kardashian is a man from 18-year-old man from Ireland who has been able to get access to a women's prison because he self-identifies as a woman. Like he doesn't have gender dysphoria or anything like that. He just has a document from the government because all he has to say is he is a woman. And the reason why that is a huge problem is because he openly fantasizes about murdering and raping women. He's just allowed to just be in a Irish prison.
Then the solution is to just let him do it, but lock him in the cell so that he'll kill himself.
Mm. Well, I don't think that Barbie is actually a trans person. I think that Barbie is quite mentally deranged. Again, I talked a lot about this in yesterday's video, just to kind of correct a couple of things. First of all, I did put this in a comment on the video, but there was I did get a bit of information wrong. There's a point where I mentioned that whilst in foster care, whilst in kind of emergency care with the mother, that I said that the mother had assaulted the Barbie, but that I actually kind of misread that, and it was the other way around. It's that Barbie had assaulted his mom.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I it was the way in which it was worded on the document. I was kind of confused, and then afterwards I saw someone like kind of respond to me on Twitter, being like, "Oh, I thought it was the other way around," and I double checked, and I was like, "Oh shit, I got that wrong." So I have put a comment on the video just to kind of correct it, and I am also in the process of getting the video edited on YouTube, but YouTube is taking forever to do it. It is going to be edited out. I apologize for the misinformation on that. I'm not going to be taking the whole video down, as a few people have demanded, but I am doing all I can to.
You could, I was going to say, if you can,
to correct.
You could always just drop a comment and pin it too.
Oh, that's what I did.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but I just want to make people aware that I got that wrong. But yeah, so Barbie is a particularly dangerous person. Just to kind of update people on a few things, Barbie is actually now out on bail. I
can't believe they called Barbie Kardashian.
Yeah,
that just completely just floors me. Go on.
Yeah.
Wait, so, hold on a second. Who came up with Barbie Kardashian? They actually is that what they go by? Because I thought you were being clever. I was like, okay.
That's literally what this person calls themselves.
Okay. Fuck. That's all right. That's actually funnier now. Okay.
This is the clown at the end of the world who exists only to mock our own failure in getting to that point.
This whole time I thought Rose was just dissing like Kim Kardashian. I was like, okay.
No. It's like if I unironically changed my name to like Chad Thundercock. You know, it's what a man with limited mental faculties thinks a woman would call themselves.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Is this actually a video?
Yes. After being out on bail, it says she's out and ready to murder.
So here's my question, because generally real murderers don't say that on video. It's never, but it seems unlikely. So have they actually killed someone?
Wait,
they've attempted to kill someone.
Is that their Twitter?
Well, otherwise I would say it's just about attention. But if they've actually attempted to kill someone, maybe they actually want to kill people.
Yeah, so this person would regularly assault women in care homes, and would act in like a very kind of like aggressive sexual manner towards them. And in 2018, they were like being taken back from court by 2 care workers, and out of nowhere, they lunged at one of the care workers who was driving and tried to rip her eyes out. Actually kind of like properly ripped her eyelids as a result of the assault. Ripped out clumps of hair. And in an interview with the police afterwards, apparently they were like really distraught that they didn't actually kill this woman.
This is going to be the kind of thing that in a couple 100 years, or maybe much less than that, there'll just be a cure. And this will just be some like sudden imbalance that triggers in the brain that causes them to get hyper aggressive against a particular kind of person. But until then, keep them in a jail cell, you know? If the attempted murder only failed because they weren't able to carry it through, then I'd say in terms of how dangerous they are to society, that's almost as bad as successfully murdering someone.
Yeah, it is. Like this is someone who like has like they have a really kind of warped upbringing, like incredibly abusive upbringing, particularly from the father. And so they've basically been conditioned to constantly assault people. Like this is a real dangerous individual. This isn't like your average kind of, like pronouns on Twitter where they all like, try and act hard on saying, I'm gonna go and knock out some turfs or anything like that. Like this is someone who actually would go out and try and murder people.
I think that they need a psych hold more than anything. This seems to be a clear case of secure mental hospital. Like 100%. This person's a fucking fruitcake. They are dangerous, psychotic, and insane. Very obviously, from seeing our video and do my own research on it. Yeah, I kind of disagree. Like a lot of people, like, oh, they don't belong in a women's prison. No, they don't. They don't belong in any fucking prison. They belong in a psych ward.
But interestingly enough, like despite openly declaring like a desire to murder people, Barbie is found not to be psychotic, not to be clinically psychotic.
Wait, I have two questions. First of all, who tweeted that? Was that their account?
This
isn't Barbie's account. This is somebody else's who's found the video.
Live streaming on. Someone's live streaming on. Is that?
I think it's Snapchat. I think it's Snapchat.
Okay, and this person is in Europe, right? Are they in the UK?
Ireland.
Okay, in Ireland. Got it.
Yes. So this is in Ireland. Yeah, this is really, really messed up. But I basically just kind of wanted to have a seal of news just to kind of give people like those updates. And I don't know how long the edit on YouTube will take. Like it should really have been a couple of minutes, but it looks like it might be a couple of hours or even a couple of days. But anyway, that bit's being edited. I've posted an apology for it. I just wanted to be kind of open about it.
Gotcha.
Public service announcement. If you're currently living in Ireland, try not being female.
Basically, yeah. Like it's just that like I mean again, like the people who did first and then was put into a women's prison because otherwise, it might make them feel distressed. Like that is all kinds of messed up. Like that logic there. Like, oh, we don't want to hurt the homicidal maniac's feelings. So let's put them in a building full of potential victims.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure how spicy I can be here because I did unfortunately apparently get one of actually no I got Dev's entire channel demonetized through some inebriated streaming during the debate. So I'm going to restrain.
However far you go, Scrum, you can guarantee I will go further for that reason.
I mean the sad thing, and I guess in a way maybe I hate to say the good thing, but it's not really a good thing, but this person in a way is, I don't know. I feel like in order for certain people in the community to acknowledge that there is an issue with like self-ID and woman being an identity, something bad or someone horrible has to exist, which is exactly what this is here. Like,
yes,
it has to
bring out more cross-dressing maniacs for accelerationism.
Yeah, it's got like people, it's kind of fucking sad, but yeah, women apparently have to get hurt for people to maybe say, okay, now I see it, and even still, like, obviously this is a big deal, but you're not going to see most people in the community talk about this because they're more concerned with this person now being used to harm other trans women, which is so stupid. I never understand that. It's like, you'd rather not discuss it because you're too sensitive to criticism. Like,
well, they were like that with Jessica and Eve. That was exactly the way they were like with Jessica and Eve. It's the way that they were like with Karen White. Again, they kind of have to be because their absolutist position means that people like this would never exist. Like whenever they push self-ID, it's always the idea that nobody is ever going to be able to abuse it. You then provide them an example of someone abusing it, and be like, oh, that's just an extreme example. They'll start to move the goalposts, and then they'll try and flip it around, and you'll be like, well, you shouldn't misgender this person. Like think about their feelings. It's awful to misgender people. Like, oh, I'm sorry if I upset the homicidal maniac.
It is like I'm a pedophile, but at least I'm not rude.
Right. That's crazy.
But if it takes women getting hurt for people to give a shit about women's feelings, I wonder what the hell it's going to take for people to give a shit about men's feelings. That's a world away.
Just fucking. Oh god! Does anyone have anything else that they'd want to add about the situation, or does anyone have any questions about my video or anything like that?
I was gonna say I'm not sure if this is an example that I don't know. It's when you get people like that, it's either someone who wasn't beaten enough or was beaten too hard. I think this is a case of beaten too hard, though.
judging from the upbringing.
Wait, what do you mean? You're saying? Sorry, I kind of lost you there, Scrump. What?
I said when you see someone like this, it's either someone who wasn't disciplined enough or was disciplined too much.
I think whoever runs Netflix is in the camp of hasn't yet been disciplined enough.
I agree with that, but I would also say mental illness is mental illness, you know?
Yeah. Like, I mean, it is fair to acknowledge that this was like a real terrifying upbringing. Like, it is the kind of upbringing that we think would mess up anyone. But at the same time, you still have a grossly messed up individual.
Keep this person under observation. Make it a challenge for a psychiatrist somewhere.
Yeah, like, you know, you can't just kind of be like, oh, well, you know, they had a tough upbringing, so we need to be sensitive. Like, no, an adult, and they've injured lots of people. They've threatened to kill lots of people. It's you know, you can't just play the sympathy card with them. Someone just asked, do you think Barbie presents as female a tactic to get to women? Personally, yes.
Totally.
Personally, yes. Personally, that's what I believe.
I really look forward to. Really quick. I look forward to, and if you are still gonna make it, you always do the Halloween like tranny, like, you know what I mean, like the scariest trans.
I have. That is happening.
Okay, because I was gonna say you
have ideas. I do have plans.
Fucking the list keeps growing.
It's gonna be a really, really competitive field this year.
Yeah, right. So I've got some super chats to read out. Family with $9.99. I support Mars bringing US cultural artifacts that apparently make no sense outside the US. Cuties, the food, are great, easy to peel, a nice little snack that prevents scurvy. They're literally just easy peelers.
Yeah, they are.
They are. I'm too lazy. It's a quick fix.
Architect of Fate with the $5. To clarify, Scrump, you can pump non-slinks with the 50 cal.
Yes, that makes more sense.
Akuda Daimao with the £5. Cuties is essentially a live-action version of Steven Universe.
I don't think Steven Universe is that bad, but Steven Universe definitely has its problems. Mainly in the animation department, because it's a very ugly show.
Don't come to CalArts tomorrow.
I was going to say, yeah.
And Pixel with the £2. Rose, are you scared Barbie might find and hurt you? Well, Barbie's all the way over in Ireland. Like, so...
Is Rose roboting for anyone else or just me?
A little bit.
Am I?
Just then, in the middle of that sentence.
Oh. Well, just to clarify, no, I'm not scared of this person finding me and hurting me. Not yet.
Chat was giving you a great opportunity to get victim cred there, Rose. You should have taken it.
I know. Not professional victim enough. So anyway, thank you everyone for the super chats so far. Keep them coming in. And Scrumb.
Yes, me.
Scrumb.
It is me, the Scrum.
Mario.
It's me. Yes. N. No, it's. Let's do drunk. There's a lot to talk about with drunk. Let's do bring the drunk.
So what's happened to our God Emperor over the last week?
Oh, there's been a whole host. It's been accelerating. We've gone from like 100 miles an hour to like 150.
He smashed a cold into the dirt.
He did. Our God Emperor got the coof. He nearly ended up, on the golden throne with all the wires. He was nearly that God Emperor. But he seems to have avoided that future. And he's free of coronavirus symptoms. He kicked coronavirus' ass in like 3 days. It looks like a lot of people aren't following. Don't seem to understand that the reason he went to the was it Walter Reed Hospital? Yes, where he went to the hospital actually to get better faster. He was like, "Put me full of all the experimental drugs. Give me your best experimental drugs." So they put him on steroid and ribavirin and experimental antibodies.
The chances that he wasn't on HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, is about 0. But he was also on remdesivir, which my doctor friend tells me is mostly bullshit. But hey, you know, if it works and there's no bad reactions with HCQ, go for it. The weird thing is he didn't mention HCQ. He didn't take the opportunity to say, actually, I was right. I thought that was the whole point of this.
The thing is, his symptoms were never actually severe enough to justify that course of treatment. Usually they give people that when they have actual, you know, bad breathing problems. It's meant kind of a Hail Mary for serious symptoms because it can stop the virus when it's in like kind of more of an advanced stage, is what I've been told. I'm not a medical professional, but
there was some footage that showed he did look like he was having trouble breathing after he was out. But it might not have been. Either way, you would expect even after the symptoms are gone, even if he's not got any of the virus left, he would still possibly have lung damage.
I don't think he's got lung damage. I think he's got the flu. He might be a little bit short of breath because he had the flu. But yeah, they say he's free of symptoms and fever now, which implies up until now he still has symptoms. One would follow the other. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever had a bad cold where you've not been a little short of breath and a bit miserable?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the thing is that he was like that when he got home. And I guess the reason is that he wasn't completely okay then. But hey, he probably demanded that he get back to work, even though he didn't have, he wasn't completely cured.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because that sounds like the kind of thing he would do.
Yeah, I mean, he was working whilst he was at the hospital.
Right.
Like he was still
do it as much though. Yeah.
Well, I think he had like a room set up for him to do it. Like fair play to him. He was still working. Despite being ill.
Apparently he was fucking bored.
I
heard that.
The big thing about all of this, though, is the amount of fake stories we got from the media.
Oh, yeah.
Just the ridiculous shit about him being on death's door.
An anonymous source says Trump is dead.
Yeah. They did the video. They said the video was fake. So he did a drive-by supporters, and they said he was literally murdering his Secret Service detail. You have to anyway.
Tried to take a bullet for him. Isn't this the same thing that we covered together on my stream the other day, Scott?
It is, yes, but I thought I'd give people who didn't know about it
that's fine.
Let's talk about the drive-by, the Trump drive-by, because
drive-by coup thing.
Like the reaction to that was like these people, the same people who had been pushing like, you know, all cops are bastards and stuff, were now pushing for like, you know, pray for our Secret Service staff. Like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Now all of a sudden you care about law enforcement as soon as it involves
TDS, man.
Like,
TDS.
Like,
the best one though was when Trump was at the White House and he was standing in front of everyone, in front of the crowd, and he takes his mask off.
I love that moment.
Jim Acosta himself is like, he took off his mask. He's trying to kill everyone. Literally, he lives there. That's literally his house, Jim.
That was my favorite moment. It was like, I don't know why, but when he took it off, it was just like this really epic moment. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
They lost it over that. I'm like, dude, he's not even, I mean, isn't it 6 feet apart? Or I don't get it. Like they act like
near anybody. He was outside at his house, and he took off his mask before he went into his house. It just shows how crazy they are, and I think that's been red pilling even more people. The fever thing.
Oh, totally.
A lot of people, you know, advocating for the death of a sitting president. I mean, even if you think Trump is the devil, that would still cause absolute chaos. And you might get like
F in the chat for all the leftists who wanted Trump to die but were disappointed. Just an F for their feelings.
Oh,
I want an image of Trump now just eating like an entire platter of crabs.
2 scoops of crab.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. I find it so hateful to be wishing Trump death because, in my opinion, maybe he said stupid stuff at one point, or you don't like him, but I can't understand why it's valid for you to wish him death. And then the reason they would all give is because, well, he's responsible for 200 something deaths, but that's not, even if Corona had, let's say our coronavirus in the US had bare minimum deaths, they would still wish him hate, or not hate, but death. So
they would always move. They always move the goalpost as to what they can blame him for. I mean, I think it's very difficult to hold a one man responsible for a global pandemic which originated from the other side of the world.
Yeah,
because America was always going to get a lot of corona deaths, and On top of that, they always seem to ignore where most of these deaths took place. Places like New York.
Right.
But it's apparently not there. You're doing well.
Actually, that's another thing that really annoys me. Is people, especially from other countries, that look at our numbers and they're like, "Wow," and then they forget, like, Ireland, New Zealand, the Australia, all these countries are really small in comparison to the United States.
Yeah, well, they have at least much reduced populations.
California,
they're also recording really interesting too.
And the US
the US has possibly the most broad definition of a COVID death in the world. In some states, a COVID death is anyone who dies within 60 days of a positive COVID-19 test. Anybody who dies within 60 days.
Yes. And that includes getting hit by a car.
Right, exactly. I feel I don't know. That's why I'm not saying that obviously there is a virus. I just think the way it's been handled has been poorly. I think the way it's been reported, as far as the deaths, has been poorly. And so I'm not going to sit here and panic. If somebody doesn't want to wear a mask and I wear a mask, then that's on them. But hey, I'll wear a mask. I just can't stand all this militant behavior and panic over a mask. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I've recently, over the last few weeks, especially since, in fact, I've noticed that this has been timed with when I appeared on Good Morning Britain the other week. That is when the allegations of me being a COVID truther have started to arise. Like the idea that people seem to think I believe that coronavirus is some sort of conspiracy, that it's like caused by 5G, like aerials or whatnot. Like I believe that the virus is real.
Right.
Like my concern has only ever been with lockdown, and a lot of that is from my own personal experience with the last lockdown in the UK. It put me in a very, very bad position.
I find it very interesting that
truth. I say this every time I get the opportunity. The cases in the UK has, in fact, over the last few days, shot up dramatically to the point now it's like 3 times the peak for some reason. But the deaths have been almost flat for 3 months.
Yes.
And it looks like they are slightly increasing over time now, but only slightly. The highest we've had in the last few weeks is 70 a day, and that's still less than heart disease. But before, like, the 20th September, for the last 3 months, the highest was like 30 a day. So in terms of deaths, in terms of what matters, in terms of the rating we actually care about, which is how dangerous it is, there is no justification for almost any amount of measures for the last few months. And yet, they're putting in more measures now than they were at the peak of the lockdown. So even though at one point I was on the side of, the lockdown measures are probably understandable, probably reasonable, this thing is dangerous, there's good arguments against it, but overall I think that it is dangerous. Now there is no justification for that at all in the UK because the stats just don't bear it out.
Yeah. And also, like, in my opinion, like most other flu or, most other flus, like, especially right now, it's basically flu season. Depending on the person, you might get a really bad cold or not. And I think, the few people that I've known who had family members or somebody that they knew who got corona, they were either smokers or they had like asthma, and then they got severe cases of it. And I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but I still, again, I think it's a case person. Not everybody's going to react and respond to this virus in the same way. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be careful and take, precautions. But again, like, we're basically in flu season. So we're going to completely forget about those fucking numbers because Corona,
I will stress the point as well that at the peak in anywhere, a lot of the, there's a lot of false positives and false negatives. Yeah,
that's been around for a long time, that problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a lot of prevalence of both of them. They're not very accurate tests. There's also, like I said, that this is a virus that's prevalent in the population. Yes. We have coronavirus at a population level. So some people who test positive for it are then going to die. The fact that we now have, 12,000 cases, like 22,000 cases, I think was the peak they quoted in a day. And we're having 70 deaths of people who have tested positive for it within 28 days. That's the definition in the UK, by the way. It's not that much better in the US. It's 28 days rather than 60, but it's anyone who tests positive and then dies within 28 days.
I don't know if you guys saw this video on Twitter, but this is another thing that, I feel like people are inevitably, if we don't stop this whole lockdown thing, people are just losing their mind. But in New York, a fairly large Jewish community was out. I think there was some Jewish day that they were celebrating or something, and cops were trying to disperse them. And again, like, that's another thing that I've never understood. You can protest, riot, and for the most part, they wait to, take action on those people. But when it comes to, somebody's religious belief, they want to go outside and pray, for example, with a group, you can't do that. And that's, to me, insane, which people are getting fed up. I mean, if you got Jewish people out there, it's like, dude, a little too far. Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk of the fact that Trump is mishandling this, that he looks unsympathetic. But I think he's taken the exact right approach, saying, don't be afraid of coronavirus, don't let fear rule your life.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
He's generally done fine, but a lot of states look suspiciously like they might have been deliberately sabotaging their own attempts to deal with it so that they and their media allies could blame Trump for it. An election year. Look, it's an election year. What a coincidence.
Exactly.
There are a lot of the state lockdowns in blue states end days after the election.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fascinating.
A lot is going to change a few days after the election, yes.
That's the case in Wisconsin. The current provisions in Wisconsin for their COVID protections end 4 days after the election. And it's the case in quite a few states too. Some states like Michigan just completely bypassed the process of having provisions at all and decided that their governor was a dictator now.
Well, going back to the subject of the Jews in New York, one thing which I have found very, very strange is the amount of places in America where people can't go to church, right, and especially as America is a far more generally religious country than the UK is. I am genuinely surprised that we haven't seen a lot more being said about people, protesting the fact that they can't go to church.
A lot of it is happening. There was a case, Trump actually quote tweeted, there was a case recently where people were arrested for praying outside a church.
I forget what that was.
A lot of it is happening. It's just not being reported on. What you're seeing is the media filter again. And that's one of the big problems with this election cycle, especially between the media and the polls. You are getting such a false picture. Yes, the US is a much more religious society. And that's going to cost them. That's going to cost, especially a lot of black people are very religious. A lot of Hispanic people are specifically Catholic. A lot of what the Democrats have been doing, whilst also just surveying small numbers of their own voters for the polls. I've been talking about it on Parler a little bit. No one's on fucking Parler. It's a bit of a dead platform at the moment. Yeah. But if you look at the sample sizes for this polling, there was a poll done recently by this whole Great Reset globalist World Economic Forum initiative.
Yes. About
people wanting, to have basically permanent lockdown measures because climate change. And that was, their polling was of 1,000 people. They asked 1,000 people and then extrapolated that to the entire UK population. And that's what happens a lot with these. There's a poll for YouGov, which asked 800 adults and then used that to, to a population.
Is that the Christmas lockdown?
Yeah, that was the Christmas one, I think, yes.
Oh, that one. Like, Jesus Christ, who the hell are these people?
Right. I guarantee it's in fucking London.
They're people cherry-picked by the pollsters, is what they are. And that's happening in America as well. You look at the polls and it's just like, poll of 3,000 people. And it's like, yes, but the US population is, 300 million. Right. It's ridiculous. And we're going to have, I think, not if Trump wins. I think it's still a when. I think people's minds were made up when they weren't allowed to vote, but then they were shilling the protests. That has really soured a massive amount of people in the US on the Democrats. A lot of people are either refusing to vote or are just straight up just saying, fuck you and voting Trump. Because of that.
Yeah. And I, for one, do not blame them.
A lot of data shows that the minds of people are already made up a month out from the election.
Yeah.
So I think that it's already lost for Joe Biden. But when Trump wins, the reckoning on kind of news narrative and polling will probably be even bigger than last. They had a bit of self-reflection last time, but things have been... they're talking about Biden at the moment having a 20-point lead nationally over Trump, like complete ridiculous bullshit like that. And hopefully they'll probably just use it to justify saying Trump stole the election. But hopefully there'll be at least a moment of self-reflection when reality smashes into their narrative.
Yeah, the difficulty for Trump though is he's going to have real trouble as it goes on, like criticizing Biden, because there's almost nothing that you can use to criticize Biden. Like the fact that, I mean, there's a few things, you know, the fact that he's an empty suit, child sniffing, woman sniffing, person that locked up a bunch of black people for no reason. He has dementia, Alzheimer's. What else? There's one or two more things. I mean, little things, you know, things that shouldn't necessarily mean that someone can't be president. You know, it's not like any one of these things on their own should essentially disqualify someone from running for president in the minds of the public. But, you know, when you've got 6 or 7 of them together, it's really not much of a problem. And I really find the mainstream media's position on Biden to be very, very understandable.
Not sure that was. I'm pretty sure people are going to detect the sarcasm there.
No, I say Biden 2020. I want to see him running something just so that the US left can finally be shown that they are just as deserving of being on the hospital ward as he is for his final days. You know, by the way, since he's here, Dr. Allegedly, he's his medical expertise says the reason that Biden was somewhat salient for the debate is that there is a particular drug that is used for Alzheimer's people so that they can put their affairs into order for their final days. It takes a large amount off their lifespan, but it makes them work for the next few days, like normal, like they don't have Alzheimer's. So once again, it's a Harris presidency. Biden is just the vehicle on which they are skateboarding over the finish line.
Well, speaking of which, there's a picture which I need to pull up from. I think I saw it this morning as an advert for Biden Harris, and it's very, very interesting. I thought I had it all readied up, so sorry, I was trying to find it. Basically, it says like Biden Harris, but take a guess as to which person is front and center.
It's Harris. They're basically running.
There it is. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I found it. Hold on. Sorry.
As a resident American there, Mars, I don't know how are you all of this.
What's that?
Sorry. Biden's blurred.
He's out of focus.
He's out of focus. He's supposed to be the one. Oh, gee. I wonder who's going to be president this time next year if the Democrats win.
That's not a problem with the photo's focus, though. That's just him fading out of existence as he slowly dies of dementia.
To be honest,
it's way out of the picture.
If there was a chance for Biden to win, which in my opinion there isn't, like I don't understand how that would happen, but I give it maybe a year, if that, for Biden to step away from being president and her stepping forward. Like Biden obviously doesn't know what he's doing, and he wouldn't be running anything. And obviously Harris being a woman is really what the left wants. They're more focused on identity politics.
Despite the fact that she was wildly unpopular in the primaries.
Yeah.
I mean,
she was right about one thing. Biden.
Oh yeah, she said she believes his accusers, which I'm surprised hasn't been picked up on more.
I'm not. Of course, I think it was she had a conversation with Stephen Colbert about that, and then she just basically said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, well that was the
debate.
That was just the debate," and then Stephen Colbert was like, "Oh yeah, of course, of course." It's like. What a terrible interviewer.
So basically, everything you say in a debate isn't true. It's just you just talk out of your ass.
Yeah, like that was fine.
Yeah.
Like the way I see Harris is that she's probably more along the lines of Hillary Clinton 2.0. Like she feels like she is the backup to what should have been the true successor. To the point where I'm genuinely surprised that Clinton wasn't the running mate for Biden.
That'd be too blatant. The problem is Clinton, even now after all the rhetoric and propaganda they put out about the Russia stealing the election lies, that has unraveled very recently, even more. We can probably go over that at some point, but I think that even as a running mate, Hillary Clinton would be too toxic. The American public hate her. And one of the things cited hilariously about why they think that Biden's going to win this time is even the mainstream media is saying this as a cover, contradicting themselves 4 years ago, saying that Joe Biden doesn't have the same, gut, vitriol, and disgust associated with him that Hillary Clinton did. Like that is their actual argument.
There might actually be an angle that because he's presently visibly dying, there might actually be some votes for him due simply to sympathy.
Yeah, that is the point.
I mean, he'll probably get more votes for sympathy than he will for actually trying to talk whilst demented.
And, one thing which does kind of frustrate me if Biden wins is like I wouldn't mind it for the comic element, like a man who just clearly doesn't know where he is running a country. But we know that wouldn't even last that long. Give it like as long as would be kind of legally required to not run a re-election, and that's how long Biden's going to last. Like he's not going to. I would be very surprised if he sees through a year if he gets in. So we're not even going to get anything funny out of it. He's just going to sit in the background, kind of as like he's effectively going to be. He'll effectively act as a vice president to the actual vice president until he disappears.
Totally.
So yeah, any accelerationists that do want to vote for Biden, Kamala Harris is just a younger, browner, just as psychopathic version of Hillary, who will continue to do awful bullshit behind the scenes, which no one will ever notice, and so it won't help with red pilling anyone. So there's no argument for voting for them.
No.
Well, the argument now is that Trump has not, condemned white supremacy.
Any more than the 2 or 3 times he has publicly,
more than 2 or 3
blatantly.
Apart from every single time he did it.
Yeah,
and the fact that Biden refused to even recognize the existence of Antifa, who are the ones responsible for all the violence that the fucking debate moderator was in the middle of blaming white supremacy for, even though that was not involved in the slightest, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, like
it's very upside down.
Like in all honesty, the Democrats, I almost believe it's like a moral duty for the Democrats to lose. Like, as much as people genuinely hate Donald Trump, and like I know lots of people say like Orange Man bad, but I just think the Democrats have, since Trump won, what the Democrats should have done is actually kind of stepped back and thought, how did we lose? Right, let's kind of reevaluate the platform and come in and tell people why should we be excited for a Biden-Harris administration.
Right.
But they've not done everything the Democrats have done in the last 4 years has been for one purpose, and that's all about Trump. And in a way, Trump has actually won. He's already won because one of Trump's kind of skills is to make himself, he is the focus of the conversation. He does it a lot in the debates, and actually in the political sphere, he owns the Democrats. Because right now, if Trump were to disappear randomly and Mike Pence were to run in his place, first of all, that would be hilarious. But secondly, they wouldn't know what to do. What would they offer? Because the whole platform is, we hate Trump. Trump is evil. But Trump died of COVID, and so you just had Mike Pence replacing him. What would they run with against Mike Pence apart from, he supports conversion therapy? Cool, but that's not going to be something that shifts the election. That would be the book would stop, because they've been so focused on how much they hate Trump that they don't actually have anything which the American public wants. I mean, hell, remember the Democratic convention, where they would stand or kneel for the national anthem, depending on how you feel about it.
Yeah,
or they had a guy with a dress singing along to that song. It's your average American person, middle America, really care about some kind of Hollywood lovey, wearing a dress and singing along, and whilst Black Lives Matter is in the background. Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
But these are the platforms which the Democrats offer.
They think that doing that is going to win them states like Pennsylvania and Ohio. In fact, their polling now, is saying that is going to make them win states like Ohio and Pennsylvania. But that is, like I said, it's just patently ridiculous on the face of it. The idea that they could push further left, push towards being pro-violence, and shit on Middle America, and then win in Middle America is a nonsense.
Yes. I find it thoroughly bizarre, and I genuinely think if Trump doesn't win, there is something like, in a way, the deep state, as it were, like, not to get conspiratorial about it, but that's ultimately what they want. They kind of want that to. They see Trump as such a big threat.
Yeah, I find it. I don't see how he would lose. Honestly, I've seen even more support now. I've had way more people who used to be or are liberal come out and, in private tell me that they're voting for him. So I don't see how. Also, I don't know how much you guys watched that debate with Biden and Trump, but I went in with an open mind, and I really genuinely wanted to hear Biden say something that might change my mind. Not that I really thought that he could, but I thought, let's see what he has to say. And it felt as though I was just reading another article trashing on Trump.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trump was making himself sound good and actually focusing on things that he did do and change. And Biden's whole angle was, orange man bad. Like, he killed this many people. He did this, and then he would look at the camera and just be like, and that's why you have to vote. And I'm like, all right, stop playing with my emotions. What is your fucking plan? And he doesn't really have much of a plan.
They don't have anything outside of how much they hate Trump. And again, it is a real reflection of the way in which Remain went in this country. When they lost the referendum over here, they should have really taken a step back and thought, why was it that way? But instead, they went down all sorts of different rabbit holes, accusing this side and that. Whatever. Somebody must have meddled with it. There must be more of a conspiracy going on. There's no way that all these people voted for this, because that would mean that they would actually have to address these people's concerns. And the Democrats have acted exactly the same way. I mean, hell, even concerning Brexit over here, I think it was announced today that I think it's Cambridge Analytica didn't do anything wrong. There was a probe into them, and it turned out no, they didn't actually influence the referendum. But they keep on going down all these various different routes. The Democrats did that. They did that with Russia. They did that with the impeachment. And then you have things like Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh, I think Kavanaugh, at the time, I wasn't too sure what to think. But then when I kind of looked back on it, Kavanaugh was the real point of the Democrats are dirt. The Democrats are absolute dirt. It was unforgivable what they did, and all of it is just because they hate Trump. That is all that motivates them right now. Yeah,
I don't know. One thing that I saw earlier, this is kind of related, but not entirely. Biden has this ad or whatever that has been on Twitter about supporting LGBT youth, and I believe there's one Republican from some state that is responding with, child pedophilia is not okay or something like that. And that's one angle with certain Republicans that I, at this point, don't get. I understand, obviously, when you have children, that are dressing up as drag queens and on a stage, that's obviously one thing. But to flat out just make this point where being supportive in any way of an LGBT kid is child pedophilia is really just bad. A bad look at this.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
But I don't think that issue is going to trump the economic issue or the public order issue.
Nah, totally won't.
No.
And that is really something. Okay, what happened in the midterms to the Democrats? And the breaking of the blue wave and their very slight, advantage that they got in Congress after all that political capital, after they basically completely blew their wad on Kavanaugh. A lot of that was over the fact that Republicans were pushing too hard in certain states where they'd won. They were pushing stuff like abortion. Sorry, I think there's an alarm going off somewhere.
Hold on. I just noticed this here. Do you also think it's unforgivable that the Republicans blocked Obama's nominee? So a little bit of whataboutery there. If that's in relation to Kavanaugh, that's a completely different situation. What was disgusting with Kavanaugh was that the Democrats apparently held on to these numerous sexual abuse allegations for years and did absolutely nothing about them until it was convenient politically for them to do so. Of course, there wasn't a lot of grounding for any of these allegations as well, but they were willing to do it and actually destroy a man's life and his reputation just for political gains. That's why it was disgusting. It wasn't that they tried to block him. It was the reasons why, like, they laid out. Like, they made it into this media circus when it never should have been.
The context is different.
Well, the thing is that the reason that the Republicans blocked Obama's Supreme Court nominee was because they could. Because they held the House and the Senate. Because O'Biden was the O'Biden administration. Yeah. The Obama-Biden administration was such a lame duck that they held neither of the lower chambers. They didn't hold office really. Apart
I think
from
you mean the N administration.
Yeah, the N administration. The N administration. Yes. So
there was. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to be specific, but there was some significantly differentiating factor between the two that made it much more justified that the Republicans blocked it. But I'm afraid I can't remember what it was. Someone in chat will get it, I'm sure.
Like I said, it was the fact that Obama had no mandate. He just lost, the midterms, like, completely. He lost the Senate. He didn't have the Senate votes. And he had to ask the Republicans nicely to let him install a Supreme Court nominee. And they said no. The thing is, the Republicans do control the Senate. So the Democrats can kick up
You
a
mean
foot.
after the blue wave?
Yeah, after the blue wave.
The blue wave. God.
Like I said, things are very different than they were. I think in 2018 it was more of a protest vote in the midterms because a lot of people were kind of sick of the Republicans reverting to their rhinoism and reverting to their, Christian conservative values. A lot of them were harping on about stuff like abortion bans. A lot of them were harping on about stuff like, there was just a whole bunch of non-issues like the LGBT stuff they started to roll back on. They were starting to prove the Democrats right in that sense. And on a local level, the Republicans had shat the bed a bit and had started going after their pet issues instead of kind of embracing the more Trumpian populist narrative of, jobs and the reassertion of American exceptionalism. They didn't do a good job of messaging on that. And that wasn't Trump's fault. That was the Republican Party's fault. But now the frontline issues are coronavirus. But I think the biggest thing on most people's minds really is that they want an end to lockdown because, 200,000 people died, but most of those people were old people who were passing away anyway. That is what the stats bear out. The average age of death for COVID in the US and the UK is 80. It is beyond life expectancy in those countries. And what people are actually most pissed off about is they couldn't say goodbye to their elderly relatives who were already dying.
Right.
Because virus. That is one of the biggest complaints I heard from people. They're not blaming coronavirus really for the death of their grandparents. They were old, they were dying, a lot of them, but they couldn't say goodbye because of it. And there's this tone from Joe Biden and the Democrats that this is a national tragedy that has touched the lives of everyone in the US. It isn't. Very few people know someone who's lost someone to corona, who wasn't an incidental death, like you said, like someone in a care home who was already on death row. It's not something that's like a national present tragedy in people's minds. There's not empty seats. There's not empty Christmases. There's not empty nests. This is a disease, like Trump said, of the old and sick, as he has very neatly demonstrated. He's a 74-year-old man who's essentially laughed this off.
Worth noting, though, you're not wrong, but worth noting that it is horrible to have it, even if you survive. So it's not like there's no danger. But you're right.
It is.
Yeah.
Like I said, depends on how symptoms is. Like my 84-year-old grandma got coronavirus and was asymptomatic.
Yeah, well, Scott, you know as well as I do. You can ask Wes and Doc. They both had it. They both found it horrible. I'm not saying every time. I'm saying a lot of people who have it experience a really bad one. But similarly to Boris and Trump, my humble view on what's happened, given the stats, and I'm not an expert to say this, but it seems likely, same thing happened with Ebola, is that an innocuous variant has mutated and spread rapidly across the entire nation, or nations, such that everyone getting it now is getting the innocuous variant, but everyone getting it back, for example, when Boris had it, was getting a more serious variant. Trump got the innocuous one, Boris survived the more serious one. So it's probably not a problem at the moment. But as I said, the death stats will prove me wrong if they suddenly leap up.
To be honest, I understand how this will sound, but I also just don't care. In my opinion, it's not that the virus isn't real, it's that the way that it's been handled, like I said, is poorly. Also, it's election year, and a lot of people don't want Trump and don't like Trump, including politicians. So my theory, be it how crazy it sounds, is that we've dragged on these lockdowns because in the end, it will hurt us the most in America with Trump. That is, like it's just I don't know. I just feel like it's more political than medical. That's just my take. Because now our economy is hurting. People have died. These are really huge things to use against Trump. They've tried everything to take him down. So what better way? Well, let's use this virus, and it's sick and twisted. But a lot of what the CDC, for example, has been pushing out from the beginning makes no sense, and they flip-flop all the time. So I don't buy it. I feel like we're gonna look back on this and realize what a fucking joke it was. Again, not that people have died. That's obviously bad, and the virus itself is real. How it's been handled has been used for political gain.
Okay, I will correct myself. Doc is right. It is not the flu. It is really more akin to the common cold. But I mean in terms of severity. In terms of severity for people, it's, I've had a flu before. It sucks. It's pretty serious. Mm-hmm. But for most people, it's no more or less serious than, say, having the seasonal flu, I think. But again, like I said, a lot of people seem to react to it very differently, and they're right. A lot of people, Doc, as well, are saying that there may be different strains now. One of the biggest scandals has been that the test for coronavirus can't differentiate between different forms of coronavirus. Yeah. So very similar strains to COVID-19 will be picked up, and also dead coronavirus will too. Like a lot of medical experts have been flagging this up for months. So all of this comes together to a cumulative thing of that whatever the agenda is, there is an agenda there that is making this seem more serious than in actuality it really is. The disease is real. People have died of it, are dying of it. And if you get a particularly serious case of it, yes, it's miserable and can cause you organ damage and lasting harm. Mm-hmm. But so can a bad seasonal flu. So could H1N1, so could all those other kind of scary flus that we've had scares about, but haven't caused a worldwide lockdown.
I just fucking... Not as likely with them. I just really hate the way that people on the left use the same tactic. Like, it's always emotional manipulation. People are dying. Kids are dying. It's always people dying. We see this with like transgender kids, and I mean, I know it's completely different, but it's always the same thing. It's always emotional based to make me feel bad so that I agree, because if I don't, then obviously I'm a horrible person, and I can't stand that. I wish we could just look at the facts and, come to an agreement on how to deal with it and what's going on, but not this constant, like, emotional manipulation that is always being pushed by the left, which I'm really fed up with it. Sorry, I got angry.
Is that
what?
More animated, my dude.
I'm just fucking. It's so exhausting, dude.
It can be. It's been the predominant news story for so long that it's really okay. It's been the predominant news story for so long, but the headlines have been wrong for so long. I just feel like I'm repeating myself constantly. But I also feel like repeating myself constantly is very important because it's not go through.
Right. It's like, so you're okay with kids dying? No, fucking of course not. So you're okay with killing 200,000? No, I'm not. But I'm also not okay with like losing all my freedoms because you are fucking scared of a virus. Let me take my risk. Like,
that's my big concern with COVID. Isn't like the way I kind of see it is the cost of like the way in which we beat the virus, as someone like Boris would say, like the lockdowns, the mass unemployment wave which is coming, the various medical conditions which are going untreated and are being threatened to continue to go untreated because of COVID, the isolation, the mental health impact that this is having. There's all of these different things that are going on when it comes to the way in which we treat it. And so the trade-off for all of these things and everything I mentioned, none of these are trivial. Everything that I just mentioned is incredibly serious. But all of that is the price for less deaths related to COVID. And I do not believe that is a fair trade-off. That is not saying that COVID cannot be serious. It is not saying that it isn't a problem. But the cure that is, which isn't even a cure at all. It's a self-inflicted wound. simply to kind of avoid something else. And I don't see any argument anymore as to why that's acceptable. I mean, the arguments I see against my kind of view is again just saying, "Oh, you want people to die." Totally. This is instant. It's instantly jumping to the emotional, and it is something which when people do that, when they try and jump straight into an emotional thing, it's because they don't really have much of a case. So the only way that they can win, so to speak, is to kind of bend the morality on it and be like kind of instill that and make the conversation all about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way that they can do it. And just lockdown should just end. We should just, if you want to do social distancing or whatever, that's fine. Like if you want to wear a face mask, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Like all that fine, but when you're limiting who you can go out and see, which businesses can operate, or you're doing stupid shit like Scotland saying you're not allowed to serve alcohol because like a pub is safe until a pint is served.
Yeah.
According to fucking wee genie cranky.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're getting fucking guidance on what kind of sex you should have, like get out of here. That's too far. Talking about glory holes and whatnot. Like,
in the UK, you're not even allowed to go and if you're single, no sex. So saith the fucking government.
It's just
people
sad.
Are fucking okay with this.
It's just sad because, like you said, like a lot of people have lost, their jobs, company, their own business, and again, for what? Because we want to be safe. I get that, but also we're not considering people that are having a way worse time staying indoors because of mental illness or just in general. If you lock somebody up all the time, that takes a toll on our health, on our mental health. And then, jobs. Like I hate how we ignore that because, all that other stuff.
So does anyone have anything else that they want to add to the God Emperor? I know that we kind of went off tangent of COVID, but
I will add this. Vote for Trump. If you don't vote for Trump, then you don't care about right-leaning people, and they're all gonna die.
Yes, and Scrump's just fucked off.
Did he just leave, or he got?
I just saw him saying shit. So like I don't know what's going on there. So anyway, we'll wait for Scrump. Let me just bring back the seals.
So over there, it's your government is currently more. Is it more considered conservative or no?
Well, like conservative in name.
Good question, Mars.
The conservative
they're called the Conservative Party, but let me tell you something, they ain't.
No.
Okay, so you've got a party that's voted in at a time when there's Muslim rape gangs in every major city, and there's a massive immigration crisis changing the face of our nation, and Brexit. So they do Brexit and completely ignore the other two issues. Granted, they are doing fairly well on Brexit, but doing nothing about the other two issues as far as I can tell, not even talking about it. And this is the same thing that's been the problem for years, that people aren't talking about it, and the Conservatives aren't doing a damn thing about it. So, as I have said for ages since he was first elected, Boris Man, fairly good, but there's a lot of problems with Boris Man, and I would 100% have preferred Farage, given any, choice of almost anyone in the country. Farage's manifesto was about 85% exactly what I would write. And given that the most I've seen from any other political leader in my country is as much as like 25%, it was a real impressive thing to see such a good manifesto. I am still hoping that he will rise to power like Trump did in the US. Our country could certainly do with someone who actually gives a fuck, rather than just more institutional morons who care more about their own furtherment than not being called racist by the press. We do need someone who doesn't care about that, because that is currently the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone who's actually going to conserve, whether they're conservative or not, because I'm not particularly right-wing, I'm a centrist, but I would be quite happy to have someone who would conserve one or two things that are not being conserved in this country. And maybe be a bit more liberal about some things that need to be liberal about, such as lockdowns, such as, nanny state laws as well. There's all kinds of shit needs to be solved with this country. Some massive list of them, and I don't see any of the political parties doing it. But the problem is that we don't have an actual competition. Corbyn fucked this country, even though he wasn't elected, not even because he was acting prime minister for a few months, despite being the least popular Labour leader in history. Despite that, and despite the fact that he was acting leader, he fucked this country by not being competitive and letting Boris walk away with it. Even against May, he wasn't competitive. And that's been the problem. So if the Keir Starmer looks better at least, but still not great. So if we can actually get some decent competition back in this country, because the left in this country seems to be healing a little faster than in the US. It seems to be a little ahead in that regard. So maybe after Biden loses and the Democrat Party has to restructure and Pelosi gets kicked out because term limits, then maybe you guys can get a bit of a reformation if you're left. But it's sort of happening here, and I'm hoping that something goes right there, because otherwise, it's Boris's country for the next 5 years anyway. But it could be his for 10 years if we're unlucky, if the left doesn't do its job.
No, I agree. Like, I do think like a lot of the way in which the left has changed over here is basically down to Corbyn getting the hoof, though. Like, it was kind of like the left had to lose so many times before they started to realize that actually they are not resonating with people outside of like Owen Jones's mates.
Yeah, no, you are broadly correct, but it's not about realizing. It's about the people who oppose the current hegemons on the left gaining enough power to kick them out. No one ever changes their mind. You just change the people.
Oh, of course, but it's more like, what was I trying to say? Damn it! I hate it when
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's like, no, I get the way in which Labour works, because a lot of it is more, they have various factions in there, and a lot of the time it is kind of taking advantage of of whatever the given situation is. And there have been a lot of people within the Labour Party who are looking for basically the chance to oust the Corbynites. But I think the second election loss was their real big opportunity to do that, because at that point it was bordering on the survival of the party. Like, if Rebecca Long Bailey got in, who was basically Corbyn's apprentice, I really think that would have been it for the Labour Party. Quite possibly, they had to go with someone like Starmer.
They did.
He was their only choice.
I would say, I don't know. I'm sorry, Mars, you were a bit excluded from this, but I guess I have a question for you in that, do you feel better about your politics now that there is really a choice, that the Republicans and Democrats are so diametrically opposed on a lot of issues? I suppose you actually do have a difference between who you're voting for at the moment? Or, I don't know, a lot of people in the US felt, especially during like the Bush era and after that they were really just choosing between a different flavor of neolib and neocon. That there wasn't really that much difference between the two parties, because they both spied on people and they both like drone striking children quite a lot. But I don't know. Do you think US politics or the US population feels better about the choice that they're given? Or I know a lot of people talk about them being bad candidates, but I don't know. How healthy do you feel the state of your political kind of discourse is over there?
Healthy. I honestly think it depends who you ask, because I do hear a lot of people saying that they still feel like they're picking the lesser of the two evils. Personally, I voted for Trump in 2016 because I felt like he was a bit of a wild card. To be honestly, I wasn't sure what I was going to get with him, but I knew what I was going to get with Clinton. She basically said she was going to just follow in Obama's footsteps, and also she just had a bad record overall, in my opinion. I don't know. What was the question? Just if it's healthy discourse today?
Yeah. Hello, folks. Hello.
Yeah, I don't know if it is healthy. I just think, like, one thing that I do notice in general with people who leave the left and go to the right, or maybe they still feel like they're liberal, but they're going to vote for Trump, is that they're tired of the same things being regurgitated by the left. They're tired of the sort of militant behavior of the left. So I feel like Trump, for whatever reason, again, like, I don't agree with him on everything, but he brings something to the table, which is, we don't really get the feeling that he's pandering. He definitely has a big ego, and maybe he says shit that he doesn't exactly deliver in the way he claimed he would, and he wants to make himself sound good, but he's not pandering to a specific group all the time. I don't know. I
can explain that, I think. So I think with most political people, they rise to the top of this scummy system because they are very good at saying what their puppet masters need them to say. So they have a good amount of like the ability to convert concepts into words that sound exactly as they want them to sound. Trump is the opposite. He's got great ideas, but he's bad at converting them into words. And so a lot of the things he said end up being exaggerations, inarticulate, or even lies. And Trump does lie a lot. But when he lies, when he says things that don't quite make sense, when, you know, they may be technically wrong, as well as being flat out lies, and other things like the imperfections, he's trying to say something that a lot of people in the country actually believe. He's just not great at saying. But the fact that he actually has the intent to do good things, I think people have a sense for that. And that's why I will continue to say, even though he lies more than most politicians do, he is actually the most honest politician we've seen, at least in US politics, in years.
Right. And another thing, too, that I personally feel like we lost is, you know, the sense of just being proud of your country and, you know, being patriotic, which, again, I see that and I feel that
Marxism
with people on the right. Yeah, it's like the complete opposite on the left. So, I mean, you're going to lose just with that in itself. We have a president who has shown he's more about our country. You know, he's been saying you put America first, which really resonates with people who feel like they're being attacked because they have a flag outside of their house or something like that. You know, damn, I was going to say something and I completely blanked out.
No, it's fine.
Well, I think to sum up the difference between the US.
Now.
Oh, you go ahead.
Remember.
I'll go after.
I was gonna bring up is the fact that you don't have to vote for Trump or Biden. That there are, you know, like for example, you could vote for Joe. I think that's her name, Joe Jorgensen.
Joe Jorgensen,
a libertarian. So we have that,
libertarian.
Right? Which I have seen some people say they're going to vote for her. The problem with that, of course, is never enough people vote for that libertarians for them to go very far.
So, the difference, I think, between the US and the UK, the main one is that, yes, the US has more freedom. Yeah, go Eagles, US flag and all that stuff. It's good, but that's because it's more volatile in general. It has more good and more bad. You know, you've got riots in every major city in the US. You've got a lot of cities burning down. You have cities in the US where it's perfectly fine for people who have entered the country illegally to live. There's a few, like about a dozen of them, I think.
I would disagree with some of that. I mean, yes, you have freedom to, obviously, you know, you want to get a rally together or protest. Sure. I wouldn't say that you have the freedom to, and that it isn't illegal to start burning, you know, cars or houses. That's not legal. Now, why that's being allowed?
I'm saying it's a country of extremes. Whereas the UK is a bit more balanced, and that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's they sort of center around roughly the same point. But I also the US has more extremes on either side.
Yeah, well, currently. But I also wouldn't say it's a country of extremes because, again, like when I see the extremes, there's a pattern here, right? Like it's in very liberal cities that we're seeing this over and over again, which is really weird. Like where I live, everything's fine. So, I mean, yeah, we do have that extreme, but I wouldn't say that it's because of the fact that we have these freedoms. I would say it's because of the politics in these cities that they're bending the rule of so-called freedom.
But the same thing does not happen here, despite the fact that there are also left-wingers here. That's what I'm saying. It tends to go further on both sides, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's more experimental, but also more risky. Yeah,
I will say I definitely don't see... I have seen, you guys do have, you know, some crazies over there with that have been protesting even police brutality and things that have nothing to do with you over there. But I guess I haven't seen it to the extent of what's happening here. But then again, you don't seem to have any issues of like police brutality.
No, it's virtually a non-issue over here.
Right.
Well, it's virtually a non-issue in the US as well. Not like I don't know. I used to say almost, but actually I think none of the major stories in the last couple of years about police being brutal to blacks have actually been legit. Even Breonna Taylor, which I defended as the one good one until we discovered the truth, that she was stood next to her boyfriend who like ambushed the police officer as he came through the door, knowingly waited for him to enter through the door, and it wasn't the wrong property and it wasn't a no-knock raid. Everything was by the book. And the guy got done for wanton endangerment or something for firing back, but he'd already been hit by this guy who was ambushed. So even that case was not a good example of police brutality. And when you look at the stats on this, you will see, yes, a massive number of incidents of police shooting criminals compared to other countries. It's like 100 times higher in the US. But that, just like the wage gap, there are multiple possible explanations for that. It doesn't just mean the police hate black people. It might mean the police have to deal with more black people. Which, again, is not to say black people are more inherently or anything more criminal, but they are, in fact, doing more crime.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't like
a huge amount more crime.
I do recognize...
It's up to 1356 now, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
From 52, it's 56 now.
I do recognize, in my opinion, when we talk about police brutality in the United States, I think that it's framed like it's this common everyday thing, which I don't believe that. I do believe that, you know, in the sense some police officers do really stupid or extreme things in a response to how somebody is resisting or not resisting. And I think that kind of officer, you know, shouldn't even exist. And we shouldn't have that issue. But when we're talking about all these issues or all these stories that keep popping up and go viral, where the you know, be it suspect or victim is black, we don't look at it in a way of, well, first of all, we don't want to look at it in the context of how the officer is responding, but we just frame it as a sign of racism, which I think is completely incorrect. Most of these cases, I'm not convinced is racism. How would I know that? I don't hear the officer, you know, I don't even know I want to get into racism really, but my point is like there's similar stories to
I blame fentanyl.
Like the ones that the sort of stories that get pushed out there, they do so because the victim or suspect again is black. But similar things like that have happened to white people. Like where I live here, you know, I remember last year I think it was, or the year before that, there was a situation where I forget what it's called. I think that term where you swatted or something like that. They went to somebody's house. That there was like a false report, and they basically show up at this dude's house and they shoot him, even though all he did, I believe, was like open the door. He wasn't aggressive, but based on the reports, they just shot at this guy. He's dead, right? And that story doesn't go viral in the same way because it doesn't fit this agenda that the media wants to push, where they are convinced that or not convinced, but that they want to kind of push this idea that racism is like a huge problem in the United States. But then you see similar stories happening with cops, you know, and with cops dealing with a white suspect or victim, and those stories don't go viral, you know, where somebody gets shot unknowingly and they shouldn't have been shot, but they're white, so that story doesn't matter. And those stories are out there. Now, are they out there as often as maybe a black individual? I don't know, but I know that those happen. And why do those go unnoticed? And that's the kind of crap that I don't like, you know, and again, it's like, you know, critical race theory. Like I'm supposed to look at this situation in a black and white way, not in a way where the suspect resisted and, you know, was reportedly armed or anything like that. Like those things matter. It's kind of ridiculous. Like the solution for this too is, oh, well, defund, you know, police departments, which apparently doesn't mean defund. It just means get new community service officers. And the other solution
that's the PR wing saying that to cover the rest of the wing.
And then the other solution I've been hearing recently is, well, if only cops had a psychologist, like a therapist standing by. It's like, do you understand how fast things happen in the, you know, with police situations? It's 2 seconds. He's not gonna have time to ask them if the victim is autistic or whatever the case. It's ridiculous.
Here's the thing. There's two things. The first thing about the whole therapist, social workers, EMTs, and firemen will not go into certain areas without a police escort. Straight up, they won't. You couldn't get a social worker.
Chaz, for example.
Yeah,
that's why people died in Chaz. Oh, well, it's not like it's their fault, but the EMTs wouldn't go into Chaz because they couldn't get a police escort in there for obvious reasons.
Right.
And that's why you know someone died as a result. That's Chaz's fault. Obviously not the EMT's fault, but that's the standard.
Right,
it is the standard. The second thing is that the whole defund the police doesn't really mean defund the police. Is like the whole kill all men doesn't really mean kill all men.
Yeah.
It's the exact same logic.
Right.
But the main thrust of it is that most instances of police brutality do happen towards white people. Yes, it's disproportionate, but it's towards black people in terms of population levels, but it is
not in terms of crime rate.
I'm going to say it's proportional to the amount of contact they have with the police. Whether or not black communities are being over-policed is a much bigger debate than this, and has much wider implications. But the fact of the matter is that most of the completely egregious cases that we've seen over the past few years, like a lot of you can't name them, I can. The big one I remember seeing, and the big one that didn't, it didn't cause outrage, and it should have done. It was a clear case of a cop executing somebody. Was Daniel Shaver he was in a hotel lobby, and this police officer called Philip Balesford, who by the way was medically retired. They basically found a way to give him a pension after this. He gave him contradictory instructions. And when he did something that violated one of his instructions that wasn't the other instruction, he just shot the guy. The guy was literally on the ground crying, saying, "Please don't kill me." In a hotel lobby, he demonstrated he was unarmed. He demonstrated he wasn't a threat, and he was lying on the ground. One of the clearest cases of extrajudicial killing by a police officer that I have ever seen. Everybody agreed as well. Everybody.
And a case that, as far as I know, did not appear on the mainstream media.
It did not. It did not. It appeared in some local media. It appeared in some kind of local media in Arizona, because it happened in Mesa, Arizona. That's where it happened. But it did not it was not a blip on the mainstream news.
And again, to clarify my earlier comment, I was talking about cases hyped by the media. Obviously, there are going to be cases of unjustified police shooting, but that happens, and I don't think it's disproportionate to the crime rate either.
No, it's not. I'm just saying, though, it really does break down the narrative, though. The second one, which I always try and talk about, because, again, it never really made the news narrative, was what I would consider the execution of Duncan Lemp, someone who had a trumped-up no-knock warrant on the fact that he had a juvie record. They put up a no-knock warrant because of something he did as a juvenile, which I think procedurally is a massive no-no from everyone I've talked to.
Yeah. Wasn't he schizophrenic?
No, he wasn't schizophrenic. He was not someone who was a schizophrenic. No, he was someone who.
I'm thinking of a different case, probably.
Yeah, you are. There's been a few like that, but it's a very clear case of the account of the police differed very heavily from the physical evidence and the account of the girlfriend, because they said that they shot him whilst he was confronting them at the door, but they also managed to shoot his girlfriend while she was lying in bed through him. So the physical evidence doesn't match up. A lot of his attorney and a lot of people come up with different sides of the story. That happened with Breonna Taylor, but there is a controversy here that was never properly inspected, and there was a warrant here that was very, very thin, and it looks like they deliberately targeted him to kill him because they thought he was a militia member, and they wanted to get rid of people in the state they saw as a threat. It was an extremely troubling case of overreach. With very thin evidence to provide a warrant for this guy, and then he was apparently shot through the wall. It was crazy what happened to Duncan Lemp. No questions were asked. It wasn't a national outcry, and it's essentially gone away.
I realize how this sounds, but my point of view is because it doesn't make sense. All of these identity groups, right? When we look at like transgender community, Black Lives Matter, like they all have very similar things in common. And I can't help feel as though, again, somebody or for whatever reason, someone is pushing this out there, the same agenda, which is why, if you just keep pushing these stories about, Black people being shot at for apparently no reason at all ever, like they're never in the wrong. It obviously just feeds this Black Lives Matter group even more. And I don't know. I just I talked about this in an episode I'm going to drop next week with a guest, but I just feel like there's some sort of infiltration, and I realize how this sounds with like Marxism everywhere. Yeah. And the only way to frame it in a way that will fool people into thinking that you need to join this group is by constantly making every group a victim, which is what they're doing. And
that's the entire way that identity politics has to operate, regardless of whether it is on the left or the right, whether it's like white supremacists or black supremacists, trans people, feminists, any kind of identity.
Right. And it's
all of it is entirely based around the idea that you are a victim. As an individual, you are oppressed by this awful group, or like or some mixing of that way. And the only way in which we can get over the victim is if we all join together and we will defeat our enemy who is immorally inferior to us because they have this particular, because they were born in this particular way. Every single identity politics movement, regardless of where it lands, operates in that exact same way. And I think it's why they're predominantly more popular on the left. I mean, like Marxism itself is mostly based around ideas of, you have various different classes that you need to have like these constant revolutions to, get rid of that kind of class. And that fits in very well with modern day identity politics. Right. It's a perfect fit, even if it isn't exactly what Marx proposed. It's an evolution of Marxism. It definitely comes from that school of thought.
Marx was arguably not even proposing anything. He was just making predictions that ended up being horribly wrong. But yes, the ideas are 100% along the line of what he was the first to formalize.
Yes. Right.
And I'm just
100 fucking times worse.
I'll just say like one more thing about like Black Lives Matter is like the sad thing about it is, Black communities, especially, at least I'm just speaking from the United States because that's where I live, especially in liberal cities, are hurting so bad. And they do need some sort of, I don't even know how we would begin to fix it, because it's not just the violence. It's also, a lot of these kids grow up not even knowing how to read. Like, they do need help. But is it racism? No, it's fucking not. But we're never going to be able to help these people while we're feeding this lie that's coming from a very Marxist group. And it's really sucks and it's frustrating because they do absolutely need help. And that is a huge conversation, but there's so many things to unpack and nobody wants to touch it because it's so much easier to say it's white people's fault.
Well, yeah. I mean, like when I've talked in the past about murders of trans people, particularly in America, like a lot of the murdered trans women who appear on these lists every single year, a lot of them are Black. And so the conversation from the left inevitably descends to these women were murdered because they were Black and they were trans.
A lot of them tend to be murdered in hotels. Like, what does that tell you? It's sex related.
Oh, well, not even necessarily that. A lot of them will be murdered either by people who they already knew, or it will be opportunist muggers. That's where a lot of these murders end up. So when this narrative is pushed of like, it's about the intersection between racism and transphobia that these women are suffering, it's like actually both of those subjects have very little to do with the reality that you see when you look into the reports. If you want to claim that it's racism as to why all these people are being murdered, then why is it that all of these Black trans women are being murdered by Black men?
Exactly. There's also like, this is really talked about a lot. I see, for example, Eden, who was attacked recently, a YouTuber with some other people in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And I know it's been hinted by somebody that, her in particular, she apparently, or some of the people that she hangs out with, they don't always right away. In fact, they have a video basically calling men who they were talking to and admitting on the phone on a YouTube video that they're trans. And so my point in bringing this up is you don't really see this with trans men, right? Like trans men might wait to tell a girl, but even if they wait, the violence isn't typically going to be there, if at all. I never see those stories. So you see that happen a lot with trans women, yet we still see popular YouTubers, like I said, Eden, who I think she has at least 300,000 subs on YouTube. They basically make a video like, haha, this is funny. He didn't know I was trans and we've been talking and, or they already slept with him. And I'm like, that's not safe, and yet I'm supposed to believe that it's just because we're trans, that's it. Hate crimes constantly.
Yes. Well,
that's very few of them. You said about the fact that of people being killed in the UK by police. Most of the cases that were brought up that I've ever seen within the past decade, I think that there has been there's like 3 people in the last decade who've basically been killed by police. One of which was the guy who caused those riots.
Yeah, Smart Duggan.
Mark Duggan, yeah. But all of them were very, very justifiable killings. Like I say, it's like 3 in a decade, and a lot of the people who die in police custody, I think almost all of them suffered drug overdoses.
Yes.
A lot of them have people who'd swallowed their stash and not admitted it, and the police didn't know there was anything wrong until it was too late.
Yeah.
Well,
I know
what I find most hilarious about people dying in police custody, which is a bit of a dark sentence, but brief aside, in Australia, is it Australia? It's either Australia with Aboriginals or it's the US with the Native Americans, not Native Americans, Asian Americans, because the Native Americans were white. They die less in police custody than they do free in their own land.
Statistically, yes. Statistically, certain groups are safer in police custody.
They got a better chance of surviving if they get arrested. Yes.
Well, that might be to do with sleeping in the road and petrol sniffing, but sorry, I shouldn't bring up those Aboriginal memes. There's some great videos out there, by the way. If you want to search "sleeping in the road Australia," there's like it's like the equivalent of the "Take the Poo to the Loo" song. It's an instructional video about how Aboriginal people shouldn't sleep on like highways. It shouldn't be funny, but it is.
Is that like those birds that think that motorways are rivers and so they just land on them and get crushed? Is that the level of intelligence we're talking about here?
Something petrol sniffing. I shouldn't go on one of my abo tangents again. I don't want to get another channel demonetized.
Yes, you're running into dangerous territory here, Scrump.
That's all right, Scrump. You can come on my channel and do it there.
Fine, I will.
I know my channel is only a matter of time.
We can have our abos even human discussion there then, yeah.
Bring up all the pictures the alt-right share about like, is she human? Is she human?
I like the memes about like who is white, who isn't white. I also like those because they make the whole race narrative breakdown. Like, are Italian people white? Are Finnish people white? I like the whole Finnish people are Genghis Khan meme. That's pretty funny. Anyway, sorry, I'm taking the stream very off track.
It's fine. So, like, does anyone have like? We've basically been talking about the final seal, like, kind of as like a bit of an evolution from the Trump thing. So they've effectively become all of their one topic. Yeah. So, does anyone have anything else that they want to add about either Trump or the state of the state of the world, basically?
Absolutely.
Press 1 if you're looking forward to seeing Mike electrocute Kamala in 4 hours, I think.
It's kind of like Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, 4 hours. Yeah.
Should I stay up? Because
I'm not shilling or anything, but I will be covering it on my channel.
The memes are going to be insane.
Smooth move.
I probably won't be watching it unless I have some insomnia again. But we'll see if I'm up, I'll watch it. Hopefully I'll be nice and tucked up and comfy in bed.
Yeah, such comfort.
But, yes.
So I think this might be some good time for a bit of good news for a change.
Yes, it's something I forgot.
The smallest seal tucked away behind all the bad news.
Yeah, it's something I was going to do last week. It's actually something that's happened a while ago, but I forgot to say it on the show. But I did want to say congratulations to Dank and Sue about their pregnancy.
Yes.
Because I saw a tweet today of Sue.
Oh, is Dank pregnant?
Dank's pregnant. Now Sue was showing she's only about 16 weeks pregnant and she's already got a bit of a bump. So I'm looking forward to massive pregnant Sue because that's gonna be funny. She's so tiny. I don't know. I thought Sue was a trap at first. So.
How the hell did they get? Oh well, you think everyone's a trap. How the hell did they get a license from the Scottish government to have a child?
They bribed them with the Raid Shadow Legends money.
Oh right, that makes sense.
It's Raid Shadow baby.
It's your baby.
It's your baby. Raid Shadow. God damn it. It's very wholesome.
It is. I'm really happy for both Sue and Dank. It's great. I know that.
And in 9 months, a new Raid Shadow Legends character will be born.
I'm kind of sad they already.
And it'll come out with 50k silver.
It will do 50k silver, guys.
So with that, I think it's a good time to vote on who gets the seal of approval for this week. So there is a straw poll in the description of the video. So vote. Is it me, Scrump, Uzalu, or Mars? Who you think should get this week's seal of approval? And whilst we do that, I think it might be fair to introduce everyone to the seal of the week, because this is a very, very special seal. This is let me just bring this up. So, I ordered this from eBay the other day. It came this morning. It's basically just this massive grumpy seal. Hello.
It's so grumpy. I didn't see how grumpy it was in the other pic. Oh my god, that's so grumpy.
Let me see if I can I can find what it's supposed to be, because it looks very, very different to what it's supposed to look like. Let me just pull up a picture of it. I think it's...
But you might want to also put the link in the chat as well. I'm trying to do it, but it won't let me because it automatically blocks links.
Does it?
Yes.
Let me put in a link into the chat.
So I remember last time people were getting very confused. There's a link in the description, guys. But yeah, if you want to just look in chat.
Yeah, there we go. I posted a link in the chat. Oh wait. So this is what it's this is what the seal is supposed to look like. So it's supposed to look like that. Like it looks, like it's
just add depth.
How did you even? Did you like intentionally type fat seal?
Well, it's based on a real seal from a aquarium in Osaka. And
yes,
there's a real seal that can be that fat.
Yes, her name is Yuri.
Sorry, I'm like fat shaming.
Yuki.
Oh, well.
Her name is Yuki. She is like the world's roundest seal, and so the aquarium made a pillow about her. And like I was supposed to be going to Japan this year, but because of COVID, that didn't happen. And so I just decided the other day to order myself one. And yeah, this is what
it's so angry.
I absolutely love it because like it's even more furious than the original. Like it just feels like it's just like fueled by Thebesian hate. It's brilliant. I love it. All right, so I think we'll give it one more minute. Get your last votes in.
I wonder what that seal's diet is.
Oh, I'm afraid.
What?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm afraid, guys, that we'll only be able to announce the winner of this week next week because we're having some votes come in by post.
So let me just refresh the votes.
And the results roughly reflect how well Biden's going to do as Trump's total there. Spoiler alert, I've lost for once.
So is everyone ready for the results? Scrump, give a drum roll.
Hold on, let me just get on my other 4 proxies.
And so, like, it's always weird. Like, I won my own stream. Like,
wow, the host of the show has announced herself the winner. Well done, Rose. Well done. We're all very impressed.
Congratulations. That's actually only, I think, like the second time that's happened.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's even more embarrassing. I'm sorry.
One time Dev won when he wasn't even on.
Yes, yeah, Dev won and he didn't even turn up. Well, he did turn up. He just couldn't get on the stream because he's a boomer. But you came second. You came second on your first appearance. That's good.
All right. So what's happened here is that all the simps have voted for someone other than me, and all the true chads with chins the width of their forehead have voted for the true winner in the chat. Me, of course. So I shall consider myself the ultimate
are all
victor.
your fans like David Coulthard? That's a deep reference.
Well, Mars, you came third. Well done.
Yeah, I guess that's...
You came last.
Oh no, everybody hates me.
Wooden spoon.
Is this because I got Dev demonetized? It is, isn't it? Sorry, guys. My power level's too high. I had a heated streamer moment. I was on a bridge. You know.
So, does anyone have anything which they want to shill? Uzalu, do you have any more shilling?
I mean, I've never done it before, but I could try shilling. So I do have a channel. If you want to come and see my shit, I do a stream most days. Kind of like this, but with better tech and more spice. But less Rose, to be fair. You should come on my stream at some point, Rose.
Oh, thanks.
You can go to that with the link youtube.uzalu.net. I have snazzy short links.
Aha.
I'll make sure to put a link to that in the description after the stream as well. I actually forgotten to do out some super chats. I'm really, really sorry. It kind of slipped my mind. So this go back like an hour ago. I'm really sorry. Amanda Shirk with $5. JK, as in JK Rowling, is trying to portray trans people as criminals. That would never happen. Barbie Kardashian exists. Hollow 1916 with the €5. People say it damages your lung capacity for a while. I think this is about corona. Thing is, your body cells replicate over the years in every tissue, so you'll be fine eventually.
I love that one. It's like, yeah, you've got a leg chopped off. That's fine. They'll just regenerate. Doc responded to that one if you wanted to get his response. He talked about scar tissue. Scar tissue does not heal, and that is part of the problem in this case.
I will say, as someone who does have quite bad lung scarring, that's kind of miserable. So,
Miranda Sinistra with the $5. Did you guys hear about the Proud Boys tricking Antifa into going to a fake rally? And when Proud Boys didn't show up, Antifa harassed innocent bystanders. Like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me that would happen.
Wait, how did they manage to get an idea to go to a rally? That doesn't make sense.
An idea?
Because Antifa is just an idea. Yeah, it's not like it's organized in any sense. It's not like they have specific organizations. The most hilarious thing about that is that Antifa literally is an organization and white supremacy literally is an idea.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's backwards.
And Hollow 1916 with €5. You had a literal 3-day work week and other BS until Thatcher. Not a surprise how little resistance the UK has shown against all this lockdown stuff.
Oh God, we are having our second winter of discontent. To be fair,
we actually are.
Anglos take a while to get roused, but once they do, they will roll heads. Although the French do that more, but only because they need to, because they're so unstable that at some point it has to come to that. We're a bit more stable, but at the very least, we will take action when the time calls for it, and there just needs to be a critical mass of us who figured out what's going on, which is what we're doing. Hey.
So, does anyone have anything else that they would like to share?
I noticed a few comments in chat on WIS, which is in space. I don't know what this is, but it might be a Star Trek themed RP that I'm running on my channel. You can come watch it every week. We're in season 2 already. It's fantastic. I'm actually doing 2 separate series, and the first episode of the second series is going to be releasing sometime this week. Trigger Hippie is the captain of the FFS Enrichment. And we've been killing some elves and saving some space dwarves and healing space coofs, making Undoomed go to prison. And this series, they've shut down some riots, destroyed CNN's credibility. The actual CNN, by the way, Colony News Network. And now they are beginning to investigate the mysterious disappearance of Propulsion Engineer.
Wonderful, wonderful.
But it might not be the same thing. That's possibly what they're referring to, but I might be wrong.
So, anyway, it's time to wrap things up. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Scrump, thanks for being here this week.
Yeah, again, sorry about last week.
Appreciated. Thanks, Uzalu and Mars, for tuning up. Hope we can see you on again soon.
Thanks for the invite, and thanks for everybody that voted.
Usually when I'm on a stream, people don't say, I hope to see you on again soon. That's a really weird feeling. Usually I come on and ruin things, but I guess you actually had decent enough topics to keep me distracted from bullying people.
The bars.
I'm glad I could be the hostess with the mostest.
Yes.
So, if you guys want another stream right now, Tailed Feature is doing his regional variants. go and check that out. Uzalu, did you say that you were doing a stream for the VP debate as well?
Oh, well, I mean, since you asked, I might as well shill. 1 a.m. UK time tonight, VP debate stream. We're starting an hour before the debate starts. We're going to watch Trump, Pence absolutely electrocute Kamala. Is she black? Is she Indian? Who knows? We'll find out.
You're like a shilling machine.
I don't come on other people's stream very often. It's a good opportunity.
You're like one step away from like cutting a wrestling promo there. And in the vice presidential cage match.
Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who sent in super chats. Thanks to all my guests. And so there'll be a new video out next Tuesday, and you seal of approval next Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you all next time.